Hello, hello, welcome back to my House of Madness, where I have read yet another book that I should probably have avoided. What am I dressed as? Well, obviously, I'm dressed as a Griffin Rider because they wear brown instead of black because everybody has to be color-coded. I just put on a random assortment of brown things, and I actually kind of feel like I'm somebody's cigarette mom from the 90s. We are here with my needlessly extensive review of Iron Flame, which is the second book in the Empyrean saga series, whatever you want to call it. The first book being, of course, Fourth Wing, which we all read here in a big long read along here on this channel. If you really want a breakdown to the minutia, to the foundations of that book, check out my read along here on this channel. We get so in depth, but we're not doing that for this book. A lot of people wanted me to, but I'm like, no, because it is really long. And I know that there are sections, and now I especially know since I read it, but I knew then that there were sections that were going to be extremely boring. And I'm honestly glad that I made the choice not to do a read along because this book is so bloated and so overloaded with stuff. In a strange turn of events, if you want a more in-depth look at this book, you should check out Reads with Rachel's channel, where she's going more chapter by chapter. Not as in-depth as we go on my read-alongs, but closer. This is actually going to be more of an overview. And while I will talk about lots of plot points, we're going to go through the plot of this book, such as it is, of this book, I am not going to go as in-depth as I normally do for a read-along or as Rachel is doing. So if you want something more in-depth after you've watched this, go check out hers. You'll have a good time. I probably don't need to tell you that because if you're here, you probably already watch her channel. But anyway, what's Iron Flame about? Let's read the blurb from Goodreads, shall we? Everyone expected Violet Sorrengail to die during the first year at Bezgaeth War College, Violet included. But threshing was only the first impossible test meant to weed out the weak-willed. Weak-willed? I think you just mean regular. The weak. The unworthy and the unlucky. Yeah, unlucky is correct. It was mostly just dumb luck whether you survived or not. Now the real training begins, and Violet's already wondering how she'll get through. It's not just that it's grueling and maliciously brutal, or even that it's designed to stretch the writer's capacity for pain beyond endurance. It's the new vice commandant who's made it his personal mission to teach Violet exactly how powerless she is, unless she betrays the man she loves. That's not even true, really. Like, yeah, the vice commandant is there being a prick, but like, is he really asking her to betray Xaden? Not really. Anyway, although Violet's body might be weaker and frailer than everyone else's, that really doesn't come up in this book. We're going to talk about that. She still has her wits and a will of iron. And leadership is forgetting the most important lesson Bezgaeth has taught her. Dragon riders make their own rules. But determination to survive won't be enough this year, because Violet knows the real secret hidden for centuries at Bazgaeth? Sorry, I didn't look up the pronunciations before coming here, because I'm bad at this. War College, and nothing, and not even dragonfire, may be enough to save them in the end. Actually, dragonfire is going to come in real handy, so yeah, this blurb is pretty iffy as far as accurate details, but it is definitely a blurb. If you remember from last book, Violet's mother put her into the Rider's Quadrant, even though Violet has trained all her life to be a scribe. But don't worry, Violet turns out to be scrappy and plucky, even though she has fantasy disability, which is basically EDS, but removed enough from an actual real-life illness that there's plausible deniability. But it's supposed to be EDS. Anyway, that barely stops Violet. The most that happens is that she needs to have a saddle to ride her dragon instead of all of these other unlucky bastards who are clinging to hard dragon scales with their thighs. People at the school try to kill her, but she finds a hot boy who she thinks wants to kill her, but he super doesn't. And then they fall in love or something. He's hot, they bang. She gets magical powers and 2 dragons because she's so much more special than you, okay? Don't even come here. Violet is more special than you. I don't care who you are. And then at the very end, they get sent off to a war exercise, which turns out to be a trap set for them by the bad guys who are people back at the war college, their stupid war college with its dumb rules that get people killed. Surprise, surprise, they sent Violet and her team out to die in a battle against these creatures called Venin, which are basically just evil magic users who fly around on wyverns. They fight, they win. One of Violet's friends and the only interesting character in the entire book, Liam, is killed, and then Violet gets injured very much, and when she wakes up, it turns out that her brother, who she's barely thought about but has believed was dead, is in fact alive, and she is now safely tucked away at the rebel base because she's quote-unquote joined the revolution. And that's where we left off after book 1. So we take right off, like, the moment after that happens. So this book just leads right off of book 1. So I'm just going to be looking over here. My notes are over here. You probably can tell because the screen is reflecting on my glasses. But yeah, we'll just go through all the various happenings of this incredibly messy book. I am probably not going to talk too much about the author. I'm just here mostly to talk about the book. I did borrow this book from the library rather than purchasing it, and I just want to, say that I do not support the author or her views on certain things that are happening right now in the world. Also, she doesn't need my money. She's got so much money and so much adoration and praise. Like, if you're tempted to come here and be like, Julian, how dare you say these things about this book that she definitely 100% poured her heart and soul into, she has enough praise. Like, I'm not hurting her bottom line at all by not loving her book, which, spoilers, I didn't. Are you surprised? I don't think you are. The other big controversy that I'm not really going to talk too much about is the names. I'm going to mostly avoid saying names just so I don't fuck them up, except for Xaden, because that's an American name, and Violet. The author used a whole bunch of Scottish Gaelic names in her book without, and just words in her book, and then did not find out how to pronounce them for like the audiobook, which usually you're gonna want to do for an audiobook. Not only did she use these names in a language that is an existing language still being used. Sorry, Adam's being noisy in the kitchen. But she did not bother learning how to pronounce them for the audiobook or for her like press tours or anything like that until people called her out on it, which just very clearly shows that all she did was Google. That's all she did. That's the end of the effort that she put in with naming her characters. And that's just lazy. And I don't like laziness because I put way too much effort into my books and it turns out I don't need to. And that makes me angry. All right. So those are kind of the two like outside things that we're going to talk about. I will talk about the author as far as like her choices and like trends that I notice and observations like based on her background as a military wife, mostly a writer of contemporary romance. Like this is her first foray into fantasy and my goodness does it show. So we'll talk about that stuff as we go. But let's get into it. You've all been waiting very patiently. Let's dive in. Blow by blow breakdown of Iron Flame. So yes, the brother is alive. He's very military, much commander here at this new base, but not as commander as Xaden, because why would he be? Violet wakes up in District 13, aka actually Xaden's ancestral home.
We were always told there was nothing left of 13.
Capital bomb has surfaced to rubble.
Imogen is there, and if you are panicking, wondering, Julian, I need to know right now for my mental health, is Imogen's hair still pink? I have amazing news for all of us. Yes, Imogen's hair is still pink, and it will be mentioned every possible opportunity in this book. That's the most important factor in any of these books. Anyway, she wakes up there because Xaden has this mansion built into the side of a mountain, because of course he does. He's a rich kid. He's basically a royal. Special girls like her don't just fall for ordinary boys. Are you kidding me? But anyway, he mentions how this house survived the war, the uprising, because it's made of stone and quote unquote stone doesn't burn. And I'm like, yeah, but all that does is prove that your enemies were idiots, because they could have tried something besides burning on this. But what did they just try to burn? This stone house built into the side of a mountain, realized it wouldn't burn and gave up. He treats it like it's some kind of a gotcha, like, oh, we evaded them because stone doesn't burn. And I'm like, no, you evaded them because they were stupid. We are reminded that the rebel kids, who are like Xaden and Imogen and Bodhi and Garrick, I don't remember anyone else. I only remember Bodhi because he's Xaden's cousin who looks exactly like him. He's also here and still looks exactly like Xaden, and I don't know why either of those things. I don't know what we're doing with the fact that he looks exactly like Xaden, but he's still here. And all of them are marked with like these sexy tattoos on their bodies. But we're reminded right away that everybody who is marked, there's a general who belongs to the bad guys back at the War College who can see the outcome of battles, except battles that have the marked ones in it. More than three marked ones. And so as long as Xaden and two of his pals are hanging out, the general can't see any battles that they're involved in. It's all very stupid. His power is very stupid and doesn't make sense. I talk about it more later. But anyway, so this implies to me that the general's dragon who gave everybody the marks is actually on the rebels' side because he basically like canceled out his own rider's ability. Violet is of course furious with Xaden, although we have to hear about how sexy he is, even while she's mad at him. She's furious with him because he didn't tell her about this whole rebel thing until he had to, although why did he bring her along to go meet up with his rebel friends? I don't know. Because she was his booty call. And so she's like, you didn't tell me. I hate you for not telling me. Like, you have to tell me everything right now. You have to come clean about every single thing ever. Obviously, Xaden is like, no, I can't do that. I have high-level intelligence for a rebellion, and you have an ex-best friend who can read your mind. So let's not. And Violet is furious about this, and that she was lied to. She's not mad at her dragon, who also knew, and also kept this from her. She's, like, furious with Xaden, but she rides on her dragon, and she's like, I'm a little bit annoyed that you kept things from me. And he's like, yeah, sorry about that. Couldn't be helped. And she's like, that's okay. All is forgiven. And then they keep going. And, like, yeah, logically, it would be good to make up with the giant creature who is also your ride, but that's not how it goes down. She doesn't think, well, I have to be nice to my dragon because otherwise he'll eat me or drop me or whatever. She's like, oh, okay, totally understand why you did this, dragon, but Xaden, unforgivable. Violet also blames herself for Liam's death. You remember Liam? The likable one, the only likable one. Why is it her fault? I don't think he died defending her. He just died in the same battle as her, which she did not cause. So why does she blame herself? Because she didn't prevent his death somehow? So unclear. Because she was present at his death, it's her fault. Xaden was present, and also this whole thing is kind of more Xaden's fault than anyone's. But she doesn't blame him, she blames herself. And that is one of Violet's new hobbies in this book, is blaming herself for things that are patently not her fault. And I think that is honestly on purpose. The author wants you to know that Violet is sensitive and blames herself for things, but they can't be things that Violet actually did or is guilty of. It just has to be stuff that people are like mad at her about, or that she decides to be guilty about, that she actually had no hand in, so that she can keep her street cred as like the coolest person ever who never does anything wrong. We found out that Violet's mother's name is Lilith. Is that something we found out before? I don't remember, but interesting choice. She gets to hang out with her brother, Brennan, who was barely a character in book one, but now she's like, everything he does, she's like, that's so Brennan, or that's different from who Brennan used to be. And that means nothing to us because we do not know Brennan, and we did not know Brennan. She only read his diary like maximum 2 times on the page. Like, yeah, his diary entries were headers for some chapters, but that's not the same as seeing Violet read his diary entries, seeing her process, seeing her deal with his death, seeing her mourn him, remember him. No, Brennan was a non-character, and he's a non-character now. Then we find out about ward stones, which are going to be an important plot point. And this whole thing is incredibly confusing, and I kind of wonder if the author is making it up as she goes along. In book 1, it seemed like there were several ward stones, but now maybe there's just like 1 or 2 ward stones. I I didn't really get a good grasp on how many there are, but they're these big stones that are powered by magic, that can be powered by people, or this weird device, MacGuffin, that we gotta get later.
Hitchcock also described the MacGuffin as the thing that the spies are after but the audience doesn't care. Basically, a functionally meaningless and interchangeable object that nonetheless drives the plot by being the center of attention.
And they power these shields over, like, the important cities, but not all the cities, so there are cities that are not shielded. And anyway, there's a dormant one in Zayden's family home. It's just not working right now, and we don't know why. Violet continues to be mad at Zayden so we can have drama. Like, one of my notes is being in Violet's head is exhausting, and it's true, because this girl is nonstop just making up reasons to be mad all the time. This girl is the drama. But we go back to our dragons, and I still don't really have a good handle on how big dragons are, and I think that's also a feature, not a bug. I think dragons are as big as they need to be in whatever situation they're in. Like, I think they grow and shrink. I legitimately do. Not canonically. I just don't think the author has a good handle on how big they are either. But the baby dragon, and Darna, or as I'm going to call her, Andy, is back, and she's bigger, and she's a different color now. She's not gold anymore, she's black now. Everyone is baffled, is gobsmacked that she's, like, bigger and looks different. And I'm like, I get that, like, the dragons keep their babies away from you, but this dragon culture knows so little about dragons that they don't even know that they change color as they age. It's just so silly, like, how much they don't know about these giant creatures that they've been riding for presumably hundreds of years. Like, how do you go this long and not just at least somewhat have figured out? But now she is no longer a baby. Now she's a teenager, and she basically has the personality of teenage Groot.
I'm not boring.
Someone randomly mentioned cherubs, and I'm like, there are cherubs in this world. The language you use in your book matters. Not in this one. Not in this one, because the author is still very anachronistic with her language. But cherubs, huh? There are so many side characters. I'm not keeping track of everyone. Like, I've got, like, the main 3 or 4 kind of locked in, but everybody else in one ear and out the other, because you know they're mostly just here to die or to be a single plot point and then leave. But apparently glasses exist in this world, because somebody, like, pushes their glasses up their nose, and I'm like, so dragon riders with glasses are okay. That seems like a liability. Like, isn't that considered a weakness if he can't see without his glasses? But he doesn't have to die, apparently. But we have to have a contrived reason that the characters need to go back to the dragon school. I'm sure you heard about this, that they, for the first half of the book, they go back to the dragon school. And I think that it solely exists because the author was very proud of this dumb dragon school, and she wanted to not waste it. She's like, we need to get back to this school. I made up this whole deadly dragon school. Let's hurry up and go back there, even though it would make way more sense for us to not go back there. So you might remember at the end of book 1, when they were fighting the big battle against the Venom were trying to get something. There was like a box or something that they wanted at this village that they were destroying, and it turns out that that was a quote-unquote lure, a Venom lure, which what do I want to call them? The Empire. Yeah, they're the Empire. So the Empire uses these lures to get the Venom to go where they want. I guess it's really unclear, but I guess they're using it, like, I'm having to come up with a lot of this on my own. I'm guessing they're using it to lure the Venom into various places so it looks like the Venom don't exist. Okay, this thing about lures, like, really doesn't matter. We just find out that that's what that was. Rhiannon shows back up. Oh, thank goodness, Rhiannon is here. So we remember that everybody gets a magical power that is supposedly based on their personality. So Violet's personality, I guess, is lightning. But, you know, Zayden has shadow powers because he's all about secrets. And then I was thinking about Dane, and how Dane has that touch telepathy power, and everybody vilifies him for it. Like, he's reading everyone's minds without their permission. Oh no, what a bad, bad man. And I'm like, but if it came from his personality, like, Violet is like, it's because he's in everybody's business. He always wants to be in everybody's business, and that's why he got that power. But I'm like, I think He got that power because of you, Violet. Because you were his best friend during his childhood, and he wanted to understand how to help you, how to be the best friend for you. And so he got a telepathy ability where he has to be touching someone to read their recent memories so he can understand how to help you. Because you're getting injured all the time. Like, he's your best friend and you're getting injured all the time. So I think he got the powers because he's a helper and wants to understand people. Not because he's just a rule-following, nosy jerk who just wants to be in everybody's business. Our flying friends get back to their school exactly on the day that their deaths are being announced so they can make a grand entrance. Isn't that convenient?
Any rumors of my brush with death are greatly exaggerated. Is that clear?
They all lie and say that they were attacked by griffins, and everyone just believes them. Nobody thinks to bring Dane in to, like, make sure of this. But of course, the Empire knows that they are lying because the Empire knows about the venin. When I say Empire, I just mean all of the bad teachers who are in on the evil side. So the Empire knows that they were attacked by venin, but they can't say anything because there's other people who don't know about the venin yet. But everybody else is just like, oh, yes, griffins killed an entire couple of dragons. We believe that. Xaden basically just makes a really good bluff roll. Also, this book is ginormous, but we are still learning skills or increasing our skills off page because why would we want to watch the characters get better at things? Once we finish with all of the speechifying, Xaden and Dane have a dick measuring contest about who has won Violet as though she is a prize, and she doesn't seem to notice this fact, but Xaden is all like, she's mine, you will never have her, there was never even a chance, and I'm just like, why are we doing this? It's almost like the author is slapping you in the face if you somehow still shipped Violet and Dane, and being like, you were stupid to have ever shipped them or ever liked Dane. You big dum-dums. Obviously, it was going to be Xaden all along. And of course, this book cannot help but be meta, where other characters point out that it is a love triangle, and everybody, of course, everybody ships Violet and Xaden together. They basically say it to their faces, like, we ship you. But since we have made it through our first year, hooray, we've all survived, but not only does this school fully endorse students killing each other, but they also do not believe in rewarding good behavior. So, like the infantry, I think they mentioned, gets to have a celebration when they graduate a year, but the dragon riders don't do that. They go party on their own, but they are given absolutely no reward from the school for having not died in this stupid dragon school. All the second-year dragon riders want to go to Not Hogsmeade, which is a village that they were apparently kicked out of because they were too rowdy. Which reminds me of when I was in theater, in a community theater for a while. Our theater was downtown, and there was a bar that everybody liked to go to, but our theater troupe had been kicked out of that bar for being too rowdy, and we weren't allowed back in there. But anyway, this plot point does not matter at all because they never actually go to Not Hogsmeade, and I honestly don't know why it was brought up. And so Xaden has graduated, which means he's out on assignment, and so he can't be hanging around with Violet all the time. And that's bad because their dragons are mates and want to be boning like 24/7. So the author gets to have her cake and eat it too by doing the book 2 thing of separating the lovers, but we have dragon-sanctioned booty calls to get them back together occasionally. So Parapet happens, we get a bunch of new first years, including randomly a prince, and also Liam's little sister, who we were warned about last book. But the prince is here, randomly, and he's here now, and no one recognizes him, except Violet, of course, because he got a haircut and keeps his head down. It's a good thing he doesn't have magical silver hair, or everybody would have noticed him, because Violet got recognized left, right, and center when she was running around in her first year. But this guy, full-on son of the king, and nobody notices, because he just keeps his head lowered. Like, why not put it in the prince's backstory that he's just like, because I think he is the third born, but he's like, yeah, my dad thinks I'm off partying and actually I'm here. Why not just put it in his backstory that his dad cares so little about him as third born that he can just do things like join the Dragon Quadrant because his dad doesn't care if he dies. Like, why not that? Why is it he's here in disguise? Also, as I mentioned, Liam's little sister is here, and she also blames Violet for her brother's death for no good goddamn reason, but she does, and she's going to spend some of this book hating Violet for that. Even though Liam went to a super deadly dragon school where he could have been stabbed to death while eating his breakfast, but no, she's going to be mad at Violet that he died. The dragons fly in to meet all the students again, just like in the first year, when the dragons all landed on the wall and the wall crumbled. It happens again because installing smart, like, intelligent architecture is not something we are interested in. We're just going to rebuild this wall every year, and then the dragons are going to land on it, and pieces are going to fall off, and that's fine. But there is a new bad guy in town. We have a baddie of the week. He is the new commandant. He hates Violet because, of course, he does. And he has a big mean dragon whose name is Solus. And that is not okay because 2 of my favorite BioWare characters are named Solus. Different spellings, but how dare you, book? How dare you sully the name of Solus?
My xenoscience studies range from urban to agrarian. I am the very model of a scientist Solarian.
Anyway, that dragon decides it's going to kill some first years, and Violet has to, like, leap and save some with her cheater armor, which protects her from getting too burned. Like, she just gets a little bit burned. And then her dragon is like, nobody gets to burn Violet, and he intervenes and stops the orange dragon from attacking everybody. Also, we learn that in the final battle of the last book, the big bad evil Venom, the final boss Venom, escaped somehow. They had him on the ropes. Why didn't they kill him? It's because they were too busy saving dumb old Violet. Could have saved themselves a lot of trouble, honestly, if they let her die. But Violet is very suspicious of scribes now because she, like, finds out that scribes, because they're responsible for all of the information that goes out to the school, are definitely responsible for the lack of information about things like, you know, the Venom, the super deadly bad guys who are going to kill everybody. So she's suspicious of scribes now, but she still has her death scribe friend that she can go to. But then they go to Battle Brief, and Violet is sitting there listening, and I expected her to be like, well, now I know that this Battle Brief can't be trusted, that we shouldn't believe anything that we're told here, but she doesn't. She doesn't question Battle Brief. She believes it. Apparently, though, griffins have bow technology, which puts them like a step and a half above the dragon riders. Why do they not have bows? We'll get to that. The new local psychopath kills a side character.
Oh no! There's Melanie. That's a shame, she was really nice.
We're walking, but apparently he's actually there to assassinate Violet. But because she's the stone coldest of badasses, she kills him and then proceeds to not wonder who sent him at all. She's just like, someone tried to assassinate me, specifically me. I'm sure it's fine. We keep being told in this book how intelligent Violet is, like over and over, how smart she is. But she is dumb as a box of rocks, and the only time that she is actually intelligent is when the plot fully arranges itself so Violet looks like the smartest person in the room. So the plot does illogical things so that Violet can look smart, rather than having her do things like, oh, I don't know, wonder who sent this assassin after her. But don't you worry your pretty little head that Violet would ever be in danger, because Violet is the best warrior ever now. Everyone agrees. She's like a super, super good warrior. She doesn't need to use her poisons or her cleverness anymore. She pays lip service to it. She's like, oh, I better get my poisons ready for the year. And then she never does. Like, she never needs them, because now Violet is the best fighter you've ever seen. And everyone agrees. All her friends are like, oh, ho, you better not fight Violet. She's going to kick your ass. The only person who gets to be cooler than her is Xaden, which is also annoying. We'll talk about that. But Violet goes to the library and she sees somebody getting dragged off for asking for the wrong book, and then later she finds out that he got killed. But Violet's friend, Scribe, makes sure that Violet doesn't get in trouble. Violet continues not to think about her siblings at all, including her sister, even though she has recently found out that her brother is alive. She has zero thoughts, head empty, about her siblings. Careful of my cords.
No, I will destroy everything.
I mean... Everybody eventually starts getting mail. Violet is getting love letters from Xaden. I don't care. But some people are shocked. They're shooketh that this dragon school where you're allowed to just be murdered, and that's considered a good thing, that somebody is censoring their mail. Maybe they're not weeding out the weak. They're weeding out the intelligent ones. They just let the big, dumb, violent ones kill all the intelligent ones, and then nobody will ever ask questions about the propaganda that they're being fed or the fact that people are censoring their mail. But hey, this year they get to get mail, because in their first year, they weren't even allowed to get mail. But yes, Violet and Xaden are apart most of the time, which is supposed to make their dragons really upset, because the dragons don't like to be parted from each other, but this does not come up or matter at all. We get like one scene where Taryn is a little bit grumpy grump. And Violet and Xaden, when they are together, aside from Violet always picking a fight, they act like a friggin' established couple. Yes, Violet refuses to acknowledge that they are a couple for the beginning of the book. She's like, I will not call us a couple. We're not a real couple. But they're a couple. They act like a couple. It's just that after they do all their coupley things, Violet is like, oh yeah, I have to bring up this dumb argument about how you didn't tell me all of your secrets. Violet refuses to think that there could be a scenario where Xaden keeping something from her might be a good thing. Then we learn about the rolling landing, which is something they're going to be learning to do this year, except no, they're not. This plot point doesn't matter. Get used to that. Things keep being introduced, and then they do not matter, and you end up going, why was this in the book? This could have been cut.
Could you really not just put this in an email?
Apparently, though, it's super dangerous, and Violet's dragon won't even let her do it, even though these people, we saw them, like, jumping from dragon to dragon in the battles last book. But now they're like, we can't do a rolling landing. I mean, Violet didn't jump to any of the dragons, but she did have a whole fist fight on her moving dragon's back. So, I think she can handle whatever this rolling landing thing looks like. Although, honestly, I think this rolling landing thing is impossible. Like, what I'm picturing is the way that they teach people to, like, emergency dismount a horse. But I don't think that's possible on a dragon. We get our first hint of the fact that Xaden randomly has an ex. Violet thinks about more poisoning tactics, but she does not need them, and she never uses them except for one time to help out Liam's little sister. Violet and company continue to be randomly attacked, and none of them ever think to try to keep their attacker alive and question them. They always just kill their attacker and ask no questions whatsoever, even though this is obviously a coordinated assassination attempt. But Violet and co. go back to their training and whatever else they do when they are not fighting people on the mat. It's still unclear what their training actually involves, but Violet's new teacher, the Commandant, is mad that only her big dragon showed up, and where is her little gold dragon? And he's like, you have to make your dragon show up, or you're going to be punished. And I'm sitting there going, but how? Humans cannot command dragons. How is she supposed to make her dragon show up? Technically, any dragon could just decide, I don't feel like training today, and not show up, and the humans couldn't do jack shit about it. But this guy keeps being like, you have to make your dragon show up, or you will be punished, Violet. And her big daddy dragon sits there and lets that happen for quite a while. Also, every time that Violet is visiting Xaden, she is apparently smuggling out weapons. Those weapons get smuggled out on the dragon, and nobody checks the dragon's packs. Like, they go through Violet's possessions every time, but conveniently, the dragon is always preloaded up with the secret weapon stash, and no one checks them because he just glares at them real good, and they're like, okay, we're not doing that. So, like, I don't even know why Violet is necessary in this entire smuggling arrangement at all. If nobody's checking the dragons, then just have dragons flying back and forth. But yeah, she goes to visit Xaden. He is posted somewhere, but he gets a giant bed in his own room. But Violet and her dragon still act nervous about griffins, even though we know that they pose basically no threat and are our allies. Like, there are some griffins who still aren't too sure about the dragon riders and might try to attack, but why would they? Because they will get their asses handed to them. I don't understand why Violet is still, like, slightly nervous about griffins. When she gets to where Xaden is posted, she finds him shirtless, of course.
So you managed to get your shirt off.
And playing Fight Club, because every single trope that exists needs to be crammed into this book. Violet is horrified to learn that Xaden has to do hand-to-hand combat in order to win, like, leave time to hang out with her. She's horrified by that. Even though she went to the murder dragon school, where students are encouraged to kill one another. But she sees, like, oh, they have to fight for leave time. Wow, what a horrifying thing. What a terrible turn of events. But never fear, we do get more descriptions of tongue kissing. The author has not forgotten her love of tongue kissing.
No, don't like that.
Violet shares that she's super worried that if she reveals Andy and Darna now, and people see that Andy is bigger and also a different color, that people will figure out that she was a baby dragon, because they didn't know that somehow. They'll figure out that she was a baby dragon, and then they will bond baby dragons, which is stupid on a number of levels. One, because the dragon chooses you. The human doesn't choose the dragon. You can't force a bond. How would you do that? And two, as if the adult dragons would ever let a human get close enough to try to do it in the first place. Up until now, the humans didn't even know what a baby dragon looked like. Do you think that they would be able to go there and start force bonding somehow baby dragons? The adult dragons would just be cool with that? No, this is so stupid. This is the stupidest fear that Violet has. We go back to the school where we learn that Liam's little sister sucks at fighting. We never find out why that is. She just does. Violet, in fact, brings it up, like, Liam, like, was trained. Why would his sister just clearly have not been trained? I thought it was going to be a thing, and then it wasn't a thing. It just allows Violet to be the one to, like, help the little sister and coach the little sister, who still hates her at the moment.
Hey, shut up! You're not my real mom!
Don't worry, though. Violet has become hyper-vigilant for assassins, except she still gets immediately yoinked by someone just, like, throwing a bag over her head and dragging her away. And it turns out that this is part of a class, and they're being dropped into the woods with some infantry who we meet for the first time. We briefly mentioned that infantry exists in book 1, but now we're actually meeting them. And we're doing land navigation class. All right, I adjusted the brightness. Hopefully that's not a problem. But it's getting dark in this room, suddenly getting darker in this room. Anyway, yes, we have land navigation class, which I guess is important in case you get separated from your dragon. You need to be able to find your way around. And the infantry are here because they already know how to navigate, and the dragon riders are here because in this arrangement, there are some dragons just randomly out and about, and the infantry have to learn how to handle random dragon encounters for some reason. But there's a character called Riddick, and he goes sleeveless, and so I can't help but picture. But as part of this test, Violet, master of poisons, drinks a drink that she comments on tasting funny, and then she drinks the whole thing. Master of poisons. This girl will drink any funny tasting beverage that is handed to her. Smartest one. She's the most intelligent. Horses are mentioned for the first and only time, as far as I know, in these 2 books. Horses are mentioned. No horses are seen on page. I just felt I should bring that up because I wasn't even sure if horses existed in their world since they didn't seem to know that saddles were a thing. I'm still not even sure what the infantry is even for, because if griffins are their only enemy, what exactly, and they don't have bow technology, what exactly are the infantry doing? Standing around and getting picked off while the dragons do their job? Are they just a distraction? Like, what are the infantry for? But we do encounter Homicidal Jack's old dragon. You remember Homicidal Jack. What good times we had. His dragon is still alive and roaming around and attacks them for an action scene, and then a random side character there are a couple, I don't even know. Some random side characters get killed.
Help. Police. Murder.
Rhiannon decides to be a character again, and she confronts Violet, and she's like, I know you're hiding things from me. What are you not telling me? And Violet's like, I can't tell you. And then Rhiannon is like, okay, I'm your best friend, and so I trust you implicitly, and even though I know you're not telling me things, that's okay, because we're best friends. And Rhiannon continues to be the black best friend trope and the gay best friend trope all rolled into one, where she never has her own thoughts or feelings or desires. She's literally just here to be the best possible friend to Violet at all times. And even when she gets a little bit annoyed at Violet, all they have to do is talk, and then Rhiannon can see how wrong she is to have ever doubted Violet. Violet is the best, and Rhiannon is so lucky to just be her bestest bosom buddy who will always be there for her no matter what. And I'm not exaggerating or like setting you up for Rhiannon to do something cool later. That is her entire personality and job in this book. Then Violet once again visits her library friend because Violet is still doing research about wards and the first dragon riders, aka the founders of not Hogwarts. The author thinks that she's being super clever. I know because I saw part of an interview with the author where she was talking about how she put these really subtle themes into this book about like propaganda and hiding information and like what happens when a populace is not given all the right information and not given access to books and stuff like that. And like I had seen this interview before reading this book, and so I thought that it was going to be like a subtler theme. But this theme bludgeons you over the head. You cannot miss this theme if you try. It is basically dumped in your lap multiple times. But then we find out a weird plot point about how the wards are so stupid and confusing. But okay, you've got the ward, and then like powering the ward, you need like objects to keep it powered, and those are the thing that keeps it powered is smelted into daggers for some reason. I don't know why always daggers, never any other type of weapon, but it's daggers, and those are the same daggers we use to kill the venom. So like they're stashed below the wards somewhere is just a whole shit ton of daggers, and then Xaden has been sneaking these special venom-killing daggers out to the Griffin Riders, and it is just such a ridiculous, baffling plot point. Like, so many questions about why any of this, but especially why daggers? Why not swords? Why not arrows? Why not lances? Why not anything else? The prince is still here. Dane is barely in any of this book, but he's still here. It would be very cool if Violet realized that Liam's sister is a lot like she was when she started out, because Liam's sister sucks at fighting, Violet sucked at fighting. So it would be great if Violet not only realized how much Liam's sister was like Violet, but how much Violet now is behaving like Dane did in book 1. We hated Dane for being overprotective in book 1, but Violet is being overprotective of Liam's little sister, and that's good, actually. Like, Violet is the world's biggest hypocrite, because obviously we already know that if Xaden is protective, it's okay, and if Dane is protective, it's not okay, because Dane does it wrong, even though they basically do it the same way as each other. And now Violet would have an amazing opportunity to realize, hey, this girl is a lot like me, and also I am trying to protect her. But no, Violet is correct. Violet is right to be trying to protect Sloane is the girl's name in this situation, and the way that Violet is doing it is the correct way, and Sloane will learn and grow from this. Although Violet does, after she is done being overprotective, basically just tell Sloane to get good scrub, because Violet also has to be like a badass and a hard ass who can't be too nice. Now Violet finally realizes, she rubs her 2 brain cells together and realizes, wait a minute, they might not be being truthful with us in battle brief. Wow. My God. At this point, I got to wondering why I wasn't hating the first half of the book as much as other people did. I was listening to this and I was like, yeah, this is terrible and dumb. But like, I don't hate it as much as other people hated it. And then I figured out why. And it's because Xaden is not in nearly as much of the first half. And I loathe Xaden and his cardboard perfect boyfriend broody ass. He's not a character, he's tropes in a trench coat. It's just like the more of him that there is, the less I like of the book. Alright, I have been recording for an hour already, and I am all just tired, and it's gotten dark, and I have other things I want to do tonight, so I'm gonna stop recording here, and it'll probably be a few days before I can continue my recording, so I'll probably be wearing a different outfit. But don't worry, we'll get back to silly dragon times soon enough.
1,000 years ago, there lived a man of honor and a creature of legend.
Dog is being super noisy in the background, but you probably can't even hear her because I got a new mic. Unfortunately, we do lose some of the house noises with the new mic. Anyway, welcome back. It is a new day. It's not that much time has passed for you, but like a week has passed for me, if not more. But we're back to talk more about this silly dragon book. Last time I believe we were talking about Xaden and how like he's not in at the beginning of the book very much. And I have a theory that that's one of the reasons that fans didn't like the beginning of this book as much. Like, from what I heard, people were saying, even the fans of this book were saying that the beginning is, like, super slow and they hated it, and, like, the second half picks up. I think that the two halves are equally bad, but there's much less Xaden in the first half, and if you had tuned into book one, which the fans probably did, for the romance, the lack of Xaden is definitely going to be felt by those fans because, like, in book one, you couldn't sneeze without sneezing on Shadow Boy lurking in the corner. But now he's, like, off. And how are we supposed to have our broody boy special girl romance if the broody boy isn't there every single time she turns around? I have a feeling that maybe the lack of romance was a factor in the beginning of the book because they do get together and they do start having sex in the second half. The first book in this series was definitely a romance book with a fantasy hat. And the second book is trying harder to be fantasy with also a strong romance in it. And that's not what the fans tuned in for. They tuned in for heavy romance with a fantasy set dressing. I'm not really sure what the author is doing at this point, because if she's leaning more into fantasy, and maybe she wants to try her hand at fantasy, she's going to lose the audience that was just here for the dumb romance, and the fantasy stuff is literally just like the frosting on top, which is what book one was. Trust me, book one was not accessible fantasy. It was literally just a romance wearing a fantasy hat. Book two is attempting to be a fantasy. I will not call it accessible because it's confusing as fuck. I'm a fantasy reader and I spend most of my time reading this book confused. Giorgio is here. All right, let's see if she can hit the mic with her tail. At the beginning of this book, Xaden shows up, finds a reason to take his shirt off, lets her thirst after him for a while, and then leaves. That's basically his MO. Sometimes she goes to him, sometimes he comes to her. But also, one of the things that he wants her to do is to say that she loves him because they have, I hesitate to say switch personalities because that implies that they had personalities to begin with, but they've definitely kind of switched MOs for book two. And, like, now it's even worse. Like, whatever shreds of personality they had in book one are gone completely in book two, and they've just kind of switched motivations. Where suddenly Violet is the one who is like, I won't put a label on it, don't fall in love with me. And Xaden is the one who's like, no, I am head over heels and I need you to say that you love me. I am clocking fewer of this author's tics in this book, which is nice. They're still there. They're definitely still present, but there are fewer of them. For one thing, I don't think Violet's scalp prickles once in Xaden's presence, so yay. But also a factor might be that I am listening to the audiobook and therefore noticing fewer of the author's tics because of that, whereas on the page visually, they might be more noticeable. So I don't know, I think it maybe is a combination of both, that she has figured out some of her like crutch words and crutch gestures and she is like leaning away from them. And also, I'm listening to the audio. Violet sees her old mender buddy, who we met in book 1, who used to fix her a lot. Menders are magical healers. Healers are basically, in this world, just doctors who know about, like, science and herbs and stuff. And she sees her old mender buddy, and he's looking real tired. But she has other places to be. She's got to get to the library, and with Xaden by her side, we find out that, of course, Xaden speaks sign language. Why wouldn't he? He can do everything. He's the perfect man. And I hate that. I was looking forward to maybe there's something that Violet can do that he can't do, but he also speaks sign language. In fact, everybody does except for like one character who like stands out by the fact that he doesn't speak sign language. The evil teacher guy who showed up to be a villain in this book, he punishes Violet for her baby dragon not showing up to dragon practice. He punishes her by making her use her powers over and over again until she almost burns out. But then Papa Dragon demonstrates why it is so stupid that this guy would be demanding that Violet control a dragon by just being like, all right, we're not doing this anymore. And humans do not command dragons, so... Baby Dragon is still having her little nap, which she does for the entire first half of the book. Violet, meanwhile, is literally lying to her best friend, Rhiannon, and somehow missing the fact that the thing that she's doing, lying to protect her friend, is the exact same thing that Xaden has done to her, and the thing about which she is furious with him. She is such a hypocrite in this book, it drives me crazy. She cannot see the parallels between the way that she behaves and the way that she gets mad at other people for behaving. It's so obvious, and it's never brought to her attention. Violet has a conversation with a guy from the infantry school where she talks about how the brutality of their dragon school is good for some reason. It's pretty dumb. I think later we kind of try to have Violet sort of back off and realize that maybe a school where they kill most of the students in front of the other students isn't actually a good or healthy way to like have an army, but it's never very overt. Like that plot point is not a key plot point in the story. Unlearning all of that stuff about their dragon school and how the dragon school is kind of stupid, not actually that much of a thing. But Violet decided to stop and have a whole breakdown about Liam because, again, Liam was the most interesting character in the previous book, and so I understand. I'd be upset too. But Mira decides to be a character again, and it becomes very evident to me how much this author struggles with how many characters she has. Nigel is here now, so if you hear a thump noise, that is his tail hitting the microphone. Anyway, this author has so many characters in her story, and she cannot handle the sheer number of characters that she has. She has so many, and I'm sure she probably has like character bios for all of them and knows them at least passingly well, but it does not come across on the page, and there is a constant state of when one character comes in to be more prominent in Violet's life, the other ones have to fade into the background or completely cease to exist, basically, because this author cannot handle multiple relationships at a time. And I think that just comes down to that she has set herself up with too many characters for her skill level. That's something that I even talked about in my video where I'm talking about common newbie mistakes from fantasy writers. Is it's really easy as a fantasy writer to go too big with your cast list, and it is difficult to wrangle all of those characters if you're not experienced. So consider combining characters, reeling it way back for your character count, and you'll be much happier. And so would she if she could do that, but she just keeps throwing more characters into this thing. But hey, Mira's back to be a character for a little while until the author needs Violet to interact with somebody else, and so Mira will disappear off the face of the earth. Then my next note is, this book would be a whole lot shorter if every Xaden interaction didn't involve literal paragraphs of lusting and ruminating how into him she is. But luckily, she has completely learned to block out the dragon sex lust off-page/between books, like it's never a problem again. The dragons could be going to Pound Town all day, every day, and Violet wouldn't even notice. Again, I just have to read you some of my notes, because sometimes I put it best in my notes. Because Mira is right in front of her, Violet remembers that Mira can strengthen wards and might be useful. Mira proceeds not to be useful.
Is it supposed to be stupid?
It's not stupid. It's advanced.
We are told that Violet has nightmares about the big ending battle of book 1. This is the first we're hearing of it, and we have not seen her have any nightmares before this point, but she will start having them now that she's mentioned she's totally been having them. This is one of those cases where, as an author, I might go in and put some at the beginning of the book. Dane has decided that he wants to be a character again, and so he has come back in to have a conversation fight with Violet. Because these people cannot hash out any of their issues unless they are also physically doing combat or sex. But with Dane, it's going to be combat. Dane is making inroads to becoming somebody that we like again, and I keep forgetting that the prince is here, but he's here, I guess. He is aware that the Venom are real, and that's it. Violet decides to go check out where the weapons are made, you know, the weird daggers that can charge the wards that they're giving to the griffins, the daggers that can also kill the Venom. It's very confusing and stupid. She's like, I want to go see where those are made, but on her way down there, she gets yoinked for interrogation class, which is one of the new classes this year, and it's actually torture class, where they just torture the students, because for some reason, they as a culture believe that Griffin Riders, smaller, weaker, less powerful in every way, are going to kidnap and torture these students. So Violet and her whole crew of compatriots, one of which is Rhiannon, and I think Riddick is there, I can't remember, but she has her team, her Iron Squad, because they didn't lose any members last year. I feel like they did, but not when it mattered. So she and her team get yoinked for torture practice. And at some point, somebody says that they wouldn't believe that Violet would break the rules. And I'm sitting here going, since when? Violet got 2 dragons. Violet basically cheated on the gauntlet. Violet poisoned her opponents. And she's the only one who uses a saddle. And it is only because the author decided that these aren't broken rules that she gets away with it. Violet breaks the rules all the time, but because she's so special, after she's done it, everybody just congratulates her about how awesome she is for having done it. Because nobody else has thought of doing these things before Violet came along. But finally, Violet uses her brain that she's supposedly so famous for, and when they hand her a suspicious drink, this time she doesn't drink it. Good job, Violet. Let's hope we learn from this. She does not learn from this. But rest assured that Violet is badass and tough and badass. Disability who? We don't know her. Now here's the thing about EDS, which is definitely the disability that Violet is supposed to have. The author has basically come on and said it. Lots of people in the EDS community have talked about it, and many of them are satisfied with this representation. I don't have EDS, but I do have family members who do have it. And I do not think this is an accurate or good representation at all of a character with EDS. For one thing, in my experience with my family members who have it, it varies greatly from day to day. One day, you might be able to do pretty much everything that you want to do, and the next day, you might be down and out with horrible pain. Sometimes you're fine, and sometimes you can barely walk. And that doesn't happen to Violet. So now, I'm not saying that the author might not have a very different version of EDS than my family members do, because my understanding of this illness is that it varies a lot from person to person. But what I am saying is that, like, at this point, Violet might as well not have any disability at all, because it does not matter and barely ever comes up. Violet occasionally remembering to mention that she dislocates joints easily, or sometimes being like, oh, my knee is sore, is not, in my opinion, good EDS representation.
Two sworn enemies.
How do you like the ride so far? I will rid the world of every last one of you. I am the last one.
Hello and welcome back. It has been literal weeks since I sat down to film some of this, but Lan is here, so everything is okay. Lan, why do you have a fuzzy stuck to your claw? You need your nails trimmed, bud. We'll worry about that later. Lan is here. It's a Lan. Who's that? Who's that, Lan? All right, so back to torture class, as I recall. That's where we left our heroic lead character. One thing I found weird about the torture class is that it's like a group project. Like, her whole team is there. And, like, I get the angle of, like, oh, you have to watch your friends get tortured and that makes you more likely to talk. But, like, they don't really separate them like you think that they would. But anyway, Dane gets brought in because he can read memories. But he mostly just uses his power to bring up her relationship because what we really care about, still and always, are the romances in this book and nothing else. Like, yeah, there's a lot of fantasy stuff that this author is trying to do, like too much. We'll probably talk about that. But we cannot forget that the romance is on the front of every single character's mind. Probably even the villain is wondering, like, will she get together with Xaden? I'm just going to read you my note again, because I think I said it well. Like all of the other classes in this ridiculous school, they are not given directions besides, like, rely on each other and don't break in torture class. And then they get right to the torturing. No tactics, no here's what you might encounter and how to deal with it, just in you go. But luckily, they are left alone for spans of time to think about what they've done, I guess. And Violet and company escape because part of torture class is also escaping. And they escape thanks to Violet having a dagger that Xaden gave her. That's like a special dagger and it unlocks the door. We find out why later, but Violet doesn't really question it now. She's just like, huh, that's neat. And she just keeps going. And I'm like, what? Like, it's okay to have unexplained things in your book, but if it makes sense, which it does, for the character to question it, they should. Instead of just, like, accepting that this random thing happened that even they weren't expecting and just carry on with their lives. That's actually a problem I run into a lot in these books, in these less skilled fantasy books, is stuff will just happen that the reader questions and the character logically would also question. So it's not just a matter of like, well, I want to keep it as like a secret for the reader later. You still can, but have the character question it when it makes sense for them to do so. That's especially helpful because it tells the reader, it solidifies for the reader that yes, this is something you should pay attention to that we might explain later, versus it just being like, oh, what a crazy random happenstance. I guess that just worked out. Also, she does not use the door opening dagger again in this book. I think we find out later that it was only a one-time use, but she doesn't know that, so why wouldn't she try to unlock more doors? We keep getting random, offhanded mentions of bows and people who know how to use bows. Mostly it's the Griffin Riders, but occasionally at Dragon School, you'll just hear somebody mention bows so offhandedly, it's as though they have been present this entire time, when they have very much not been, and we never actually see any Dragon Riders using bows in battle, even though that would be the smartest thing to do. These people should be training longbows nonstop to shoot the venom with special metal arrowheads. Because, yeah, you're gonna lose more arrows, but it takes less metal to make arrowheads than it does to make a single dagger, and it seems way more logical to me to make arrows than daggers in flying creature mounted combat. Finally, we get to the part of the book that I have been waiting for, only because I had the perfect meme for it. I'd heard about this somehow through the zeitgeist, and it is now Homicidal Jack is back from the dead. Play the clip.
Somehow Palpatine returned.
As soon as I found out that Homicidal Jack comes back in this book, I knew that I had to at least review the book so I could play that clip. That clip is the entire reason that this review exists. But also, everyone's reactions to Homicidal Jack being back from the dead, something that we did not know could happen, no one reacts. A few people are like, uh-oh, better watch out, Violet. Jack is back and he's gonna try to kill you. And then they literally go back to classwork. A formerly dead classmate wandered into class and was like, hey guys, I'm back. And everyone was like, oh, it's that guy. And I am not kidding you. The zero fucks that anybody gives. I am so confused because it seems to me from the world building that we get that people cannot come back from the dead in this world. And yet here he is, formerly dead classmate. No one has a single question. No thoughts had empty. Even Violet doesn't really wonder about it. Yeah, my note is, I cannot express to you how incurious these people are about a dead man walking into their class. But then Violet has a freak out because due to some dragon mind link shenanigans, she thinks that Xaden has been injured in a battle, so she leaves class, even though that's against the rules, just jumps on her dragon and fucking leaves, and she flies at top speed. And of course, like, we even though the dragons are like mentally connected, they're too far apart for her dragon to be able to tell if Xaden is actually injured. But they fly at top speed, and as the reader, you're like, oh my gosh, has something finally happened? And maybe like perfect Xaden has lost a battle for once in his goddamn life. But she gets there, she's like, where is he? Where is he? Is he in the infirmary with the other injured people? Because there was indeed a battle, and she's like ripping through the fort like, where is he? I need to find him. And she finds him, and he's just like shirtless and wrestling somebody, and he's fine. And he's all just like amused that she was worried about him. And we find out that yes, he was injured in the battle, but was immediately mended back to perfect full health, because I guess the mender was like, this guy gets my attention while there's still like other injured here, but Xaden is the most important because he's the love interest. So once again, we can never ever have Xaden looking weak for even a split second. Like, he can't even be injured, because in this type of book, the man must be so hyper masculine that he cannot even be injured. He cannot be seen to be weaker than the woman ever. Violet gets injured left, right, and center. She spends probably 50% of this book beat up in some way. So that perfect, flawless Xaden, who is never weakened, can come and be like soft with her, you know, like that's the fantasy. You want the big tough man to come be soft with you. But we never get the reverse. We never get her having to go take care of him, because he is always, always fine. He cannot lose a fight. He cannot be seen to be injured. And that, unfortunately for me, ruins it. Because you guys know that I am hurt comfort trash. But when it is so blatantly uneven, I'm no longer interested. We do get more lengthy description of tongue kissing. Hooray! And then we go on to our first sex scene of the book, which is about 40% of the way in. And everybody who is like into these books because they were smutty is probably like, oh my god, about fucking time. They do have shower sex, and Violet's powers like go off when she orgasms, and I'm like, that feels super dangerous to be having electricity powers in the shower, but okay. Also, some of the lines, I did write down a few lines that made me chuckle, and one of them was, she says, I need you, and he says, same. The sheer, like, millennial Gen Z tone of this book is inescapable. Like, forget any fantasy tone you ever had. They all talk like modern teenagers / modern millennials. Yes, I know that's different generations, but we still do have a similar enough way of talking. But after the sex, they drop off some daggers with the Griffin Riders, and then they have an as you know conversation with the Griffin Riders so that they can exposit to the reader. An as you know conversation is what I call it when characters tell each other things that both of the characters already know, just for the reader's benefit. Those conversations feel very unnatural, but hey, Xaden's ex-girlfriend is suddenly randomly here. She just happens to be a Griffin Rider. So Violet can stand there, seething with jealousy, as she sees this other girl who we are assured is like hotter than Violet, which is impressive because Violet's really hot. Later, I'm just gonna tell you right now, we find out that this girl and Xaden were going to be in an arranged marriage, but they didn't actually care about each other, or at least Xaden didn't care about her, because we cannot have a man having previously felt romantic love, real romantic love, ever until the girl that he is with. Because everybody knows that once you feel romantic love for somebody once, you can never feel it again for anybody else. And we're back to this guy, the collector.
The collector has been collecting for a long time, species of all manners, antiques, everything.
Who has this magical MacGuffin called a luminary, and the guy wants to see Violet use her powers, and Xaden thinks that he's going to try to collect her, and this entire plot point, now that I finished the book, could be cut entirely out of the book, and I don't think we would lose a goddamn thing. The most that it serves is there's an action scene involving it later, and it's a great place for Violet to get to just sit around being super, super jealous that Xaden had an ex-girlfriend. It's so weird because these books want you to know that the man has sexual experience before the main character. Like, that's part of the allure, is that the girl is usually very, very sexually inexperienced, and the man usually has a lot of ex-girlfriends. But the allure part is that he's not supposed to have ever cared about any of those girls. It's fine if he used those girls for sex, but he cannot have cared about them, because the fantasy is that the main character girl is the first person he's ever cared about. That's the fantasy. You want to be the first person who has ever broken through his hard shell and made him feel love for the first time. We cannot make up our minds, because we gotta have the jealousy. So Violet is mad that he has a romantic past, but also him having a romantic past is part of the allure. It's so, like, it contradicts itself, you know what I mean? But yes, the collector plot point, like everything else, feels very unceremoniously plopped in our laps, because this author really struggles with her plots and weaving them together. They are not woven together. They are just like, it's almost like she just wrote them separately and plonked them into the book. They don't flow at all. It's just, here's what we're doing right now. Okay, switch gears, we're doing something else. There's no natural progression of the plot. Xaden gives Violet another special dagger. I thought she already had one, but I guess maybe now she has two. They act like this is the first one he's ever given her, but I could have sworn that she had one. And then Violet goes back to the dragon school, and she doesn't get in any real trouble for having left in the middle of class to go see her boyfriend, because dragon emotions. Her friends, after this 50% mark, finally find out the truth about what she's been doing and working with, like, the enemy, basically, and they forgive her immediately, because Violet is the most special person in the whole wide world. Why wouldn't they forgive her immediately? But especially perfect best friend Rhiannon. Perfect best friend Rhiannon would never dream of having a bad thought towards Violet. And for some reason, everybody vows to graduate, even though they are now all on board with the school being probably evil. They're like, oh, Violet says the school is bad, actually, but we still want to graduate from it? Okay. Choices, I guess. Apparently Jack is nice now. We don't see it. It's off page. People just saying, oh yeah, I saw Jack doing nice things. The Jack plotline is also so stunted. Just a reminder that the prince and Liam's sister are also here. They occasionally pop in to be characters and then bugger right off into the background to be forgotten about again. But they got their dragons. The author occasionally remembers that people are trying to assassinate Violet. It does not happen very often, and then it does, and Violet will just kill the person and ask no follow-up questions. But oh no, another faceless side character is dead in this assassination attempt.
Oh no! There's Melanie.
And supposedly Violet still has her armor, but we don't hear about it very often. And I think that's because the author realized how OP it was for the character to have a literal character shield. So, like, Violet's still wearing it all the time, but she just keeps getting endangered in just the right way that her armor couldn't save her this time. Like, somebody's trying to throw her off a roof this time, and she's just, like, hanging on for dear life. But don't worry, Homicidal Jack shows up to save her. In one of his, like, 3 scenes in this entire book. There's a scene where he shows up, there's this scene where he saves her, and then there's, like, one scene at the end of the book, not counting the epilogue. Thank God. So she's like, okay, I guess Jack thinks we're even, and that's the end of that scene. We're walking. But now we have to break into a super secret library, and I'm having Lightlark flashbacks, but they have to bust into a super secret Uber library, and the only one who can get them in there is the prince. We figured out why he's in this book. Wow, good for us. He's finally here to be useful. And that's it. Just useful in this one situation. He probably is going to come up in later books. But in this book, it's very clear that he exists for this, because he is a prince and his royal, like, thumbprint, DNA, whatever, can get him in to the super uber secret library vault. So they're gonna do a heist with Violet and some of her friends and Xaden and the prince, and they're gonna go into the library vault and get the super duper secret things that they need. The prince apparently at first doesn't really like some of Violet's friends, especially Xaden, because of course not, because Xaden is like a personality black hole. He gets over it off page in a scene that we don't get to see where they convince the prince to join them. It just cuts from the prince doesn't want to join them to we convince the prince to join us. Good, I'm glad. I didn't want to hear how you did that anyway. The heist was kind of entertaining to read, but it also felt like it came out of nowhere and was going nowhere. Like it felt sort of disjointed with the tone of the rest of the book, just like all of a sudden they were doing a heist. Xaden was lurking around in the shadows, totally being Batman, and they finished the heist and they found some journals. Yay. Then I have, OMG, this girl needs to stop taking funny tasting drinks from people, because Violet does it again. Yes, that's right. She takes a drink from somebody that tastes weird, and she keeps drinking it, and oopsie daisy, she was drugged again. But the bad guys have figured out that she did the heist, and they yoink her. She gets tortured, but of course she won't break. She's just being tortured very much, like multiple scenes of her being tortured, but she won't break because she's just so friggin' strong. We don't even know that what she found from the vault is necessarily going to be useful. I mean, of course it is, but like at this point in the book, we don't even know that. Like she might be being tortured for no reason. But for some reason, in the torture scene only, never happens again, she gets visited by the ghost of Liam. And he like coaches her through the torture. And it is very unclear whether it's his actual ghost or she's hallucinating. And it never comes up again. But hilariously, she actually learns more from the bad guy than he learns from her because this motherfucker cannot stop monologuing. The villain at one point, this evil, adult, cackling villain guy, says, "No worries." Also, I would like to point out that in book 1, whenever Violet was injured, she would always be like, pain, I'm used to pain, I eat pain for breakfast. But that has not come up in this book. Like, even when she's being tortured now, she doesn't, like, call back on her years of pain from her disability. It's like, again, like her disability doesn't exist. So she just is tortured and never goes, ha, they'll never get me because I'm good at resisting pain. That never comes up. Also, they torture her for literal days and her dragon doesn't eat anyone. Like, she's been separated from her dragon and he can't communicate with her thanks to the potion that she drank. But he isn't murdering his way around the school until he finds her. Finally, the bad guys enlist Dane. They were hesitant to do it because they are not, strictly speaking, supposed to be torturing Violet, but they were finally like, she's too strong, we can't break her, we need Dane because he's the mind reader. And so they bring him in there, and they're like, find her memories of her stealing the books from the super secret vault, but instead Violet uses that opportunity to show him that the rebellion is a thing and the dragon school is evil. So the bad guys really didn't think too hard about this. And also apparently Violet can totally control what memories she sends to Dane. There's a tense moment where she thinks that maybe Dane is going to tattle on her, but of course he doesn't. He does the right thing. And it is just in time for Xaden and company to bust in and rescue her. In the most panty-wetting moment of heroic male hero-ness, where he can like scoop her up into his arms, you know, after her body has been broken and he's all strong and has murdered so many people to come and get her and rescue her. And then he does a swoony love confession, and I'm certain that the girlies are getting anime-style nosebleeds at this, but of course, my cold dead heart feels nothing except for how ridiculously cheesy and cliche this is. I'm still over here going, allosexuals, you are so easy! You are so easy! Why don't I do more of this in my books? I could have you eaten out of the palm of my hand. Xaden and Violet kind of work together to kill the villain of the week, and he is now dead, so thank goodness we just got rid of him. Violet's mom appears to be a character for about 10 minutes and then disappears again. Violet thinks, for the first time in my life, I feel weak, and, citation needed. But even Violet's mom, while she's here very briefly, pauses to blow smoke up Violet's ass and tell her like how amazing and awesome and badass she is. We also found out, oh, I forgot about this. We also found out the answer to the mystery of why Violet's mother put her into the Riders, and it's stupid. Violet was just so smart. She was too smart just the smartest girl who ever lived. And when she was becoming a scribe, while her father was still alive, Violet's mother was like, okay, her father will protect her, when Violet inevitably figures out that the school is evil because she's just the smartest girl who was ever smart. But oopsie, Violet's father died of dead parent-itis, and now Violet is in danger because she is too close to, like, information in the scribe quadrant. So Violet's mother put her in the Riders to protect her. She took her tiny, disabled daughter, who has only ever trained to be a glorified librarian her entire life, and put her into the hyper-deadly dragon school with the giant man-eating lizards to protect her.
Excuse me, what?
Right, that's logical. Well, clearly all the smarts went to Violet. But of course, because Violet is such an amazing person, she handled it. But just, the mom is basically calling her own quadrant, the dragon riding quadrant, stupid. She was like, if Violet joins the dragon riders, she'll be too dumb to figure out that the school is evil. And she'll just be too busy riding dragons like a big old dum-dum like me. Like, okay, this is not doing what you think it's doing as a plot point. I'm sorry. And of course, Mom is not actually a character. She is 3 plot points in a trench coat. She shows up, imparts important information, and then dips. The crew of freedom fighters goes to leave the school, and there's a bunch of other Dragon Riders students, and Dane tries to give an impassioned speech about why they should leave, and of course Dane sucks at it, because it's just Dane. Why would he be good at anything? So Xaden steps forward to give his impassioned speech, and of course everybody is like, oh my gosh, now that Xaden has said it, we agree. We're going to all leave and join the rebellion, and then they did. But I do have that the torture scene cements a trend that I noticed, especially in the beginning of the book, but even in the second half of the book, of Violet getting into situations where she has to endure a lot. Like, she just is supposed to endure until Xaden can come and save her. And her bravery is supposed to come from the fact that she can endure, but it just keeps happening over and over again. Like, I'm fine with a scene or two where a character has to be brave by enduring some horrible situation. But that's all Violet really does, especially in the first half of the book. Her bravery is only in how much she can endure until her big strong man swoops in to save her. There's still some of it in the second half of the book, but the second half does have a few more action scenes where Violet actually gets to do things. Don't worry, in Not District 13, Violet gets mended, probably by her brother, and then she and Xaden wake up and have morning sex. Then somebody says the line, "Such theatrics are above you." I think it was supposed to be, "Such theatrics are beneath you." So we've got all of these young dragon riding students, and the leaders of the rebellion, so anybody over like 30, are grumpy and don't like the heroes. Because if you are over 30 in a book like this, you're in charge of being wrong all the time. That's all you get to do. Like me as a 38-year-old in a world like this, anything I say would automatically be wrong. And anything the young 20-somethings say is automatically correct. So the leadership is grumpy for various reasons, that there's a whole bunch of new dragon riding students here, but we're not supposed to side with them or see the logic in their points because they're old. But hey, finally, halfway through the book, Baby Dragon is awake, and it says she's 2/3 the size of Xaden's dragon, which would mean more if we knew how big Xaden's dragon was. But Baby Dragon, oh no, she has a wonky wing. That is somehow Violet's fault. It's really dumb, but oh, she has a wonky wing, which means she's disabled and Violet will never be able to ride her. Then I laughed hysterically because even though they have all gone off to this rebellion stronghold, the author is like determined that we keep up the status quo of this book. So the dragon riders keep going to classes. They're just doing classes in this new place now instead of back home in the dragon school. And I'm like, this is the middle of a war. Like, yeah, they haven't graduated, but like, we're not just gonna pretend that everything's normal and keep going to class, are we? Yes, we are. The tiniest lip service is paid to how much dragons eat, but it doesn't actually matter and never comes up again. For some reason, up here in the mountains, they have to train for altitude, even though they have been flying dragons for over a year, and the altitude thing has never been mentioned. Like, how high did they fly? I guess they must have been really low to the ground most of the time. My note is, even though they're supposedly in a desperate losing war and just got a shit ton of dragon riders, they still won't let them fight scary death wizards because they're students. Oh, but Mira decided she wants to be a character again, and she shows up with 40 riders who want to join the rebellion, and then they all fade immediately into the background, and I'm not entirely certain why they're here. But luckily, none of the riders that Mira brought are spying or lying. They're all completely loyal to the rebellion. All of Violet's siblings are back together again. Mira reunites with their brother, who she thought was dead. That whole thing goes down exactly the way you think it will, and we have some small sibling dynamics here for a hot minute, but don't worry, that won't last. Also, I keep forgetting that these people have magic. It is used so little. Like, you could have some serious fun with it. Why isn't Xaden using his shadows during sex, for example? That would be one of the, easiest ways to really have fun with them having magical abilities and keep it within the bounds of your silly, horny book. And we're back to remembering the weird collector plot point because he still has the item that we need. So Violet decides now's the time to grab both my siblings and go get it from him. And unfortunately, I'm probably going to go ahead and stop for the moment recording. I'll probably come back later today, but I have not seen a ferret in a while, and that is concerning. So I will catch you again shortly.
Well done, boy. That's even bigger than the last one.
Actually, it's about the same size.
All right, we're back. We're back for more. The ferrets are away. I've had lunch. I did things. So now we are back for more of this book. Are you confused by the plot? I am too. I think the author was confused by the plot. So yes, the family is going to go, just as siblings, to this weird collector guy. And I have written, there's no feeling of urgency to create the ward because we have not seen a single venom except in dreams for over 50% of this book. There's too much fluffy side stuff and lack of the threat that kills the momentum and the tempo. Yes, we're supposed to believe that it's super urgent that they get this ward up and running, but there's been no enemy attacks. There's been no danger. And you need to prove to us in a book that the characters are in danger. Like, that's step one. They need to use blood for something. I don't even remember what, but they cut their palms because this is a fantasy book, and that's just like the rules, is if you need blood for something, it has to be palm blood. Only palm blood will do. Blood from anywhere else in your body, not allowed. But whatever they needed blood for, it didn't work. I think it was something to do with the ward and activating it, and I feel like if I can't even remember what it was, it probably could have just been cut. At this point, we remember that Violet sucks with her, lightning aim. It hasn't been a problem, but now it is back to being a plot point again over halfway through the book. Also, we find out she's doing a training session before she and her siblings go to do the thing with the collector. Everything is just so disjointed. But she's doing a training session with some guy from the rebellion. And we find out through him that she's not a true lightning wielder. She is a power wielder, very vague there, but that her lightning is just how her power manifests. And I think that we are being led up to future books where I'm betting that Violet is going to be able to channel this power that she has into other forms besides lightning, because we've got 5 books to get through and the power creep is already extreme with this girl, so we're gonna have to start varying it up with her magic. Even when she's hanging out with this teacher who's supposed to be telling her how much she sucks and how much she needs to practice, he's still spending half his time telling her how amazing she is. He gives her a little MacGuffin item that's supposed to help with her powers, but throughout the book it is very unclear to me exactly what this MacGuffin does. She often has it, she mentions that she has it, but does it actually do anything? I don't think so. I honestly think it's just like Dumbo's feather. Like, I think he's gonna eventually reveal, you didn't need the thing that I gave you all along. It was always you. He doesn't in this book, but maybe in a future book. He does claim that it's to keep her from being a danger to herself and others, which means nothing because she has not been a danger to herself or her friends through her lightning powers, even one time. She had shower sex that activated her lightning powers and didn't get electrocuted, so she's fine. But now we're gonna go see the Collector. We were like, we're gonna go see the Collector, and then she was like, oh, wait a minute, we need a scene of me doing my training and getting this special item. Now we're gonna go see the Collector.
I present to you Tanalir Tivan, the Collector.
They get to the Collector's place, and he lives in a giant bougie mansion, and it turns out that, like, Xaden's ex-girlfriend is related to him, I think. The book fully mentions how indefensible his mansion would be if it was ever attacked, but Violet never follows that up to the logical conclusion of asking, why is it never attacked? Is there a reason that the Venin don't attack this place that is super attackable and full of, like, valuable magical items? She never asks that. I don't think we're supposed to either. But of course, Xaden is here visiting his ex for extremely contrived reasons, and it's all so Violet can be like, why is he here? And then they can just be mad at each other. Because he's mad that she's here, she's mad that he's mad that she's here. When it comes to do anything with Xaden's ex, Violet goes into full, like, obnoxious uppity mode. Like, the moment she sees this girl, Violet melts down. Now, we do find out later that this girl has emotion heightening powers. So one of the reasons that Violet melts down is that this girl is sort of causing her to. But Violet just goes into full meltdown mode immediately. And, like, not even necessarily when she's in the vicinity of this girl. So I think that Violet is also just, like, a small dog energy, you know, yapping from someone's purse in a constant state of upset. The real reason that this section exists is so that Violet can have her pretty princess dress-up scene and get to wear a super sexy, gorgeous dress with an open back so you can see all of her cool dragon tattoos, lest we forget and lest we miss out on that chance for merchandising. Xaden's ex is named Cat, and she is catty. We're not even trying anymore. Then the Collector congratulates Violet for having, like, taken down the dragon school and run away with a bunch of their students when all this bitch did was get tortured until her boyfriend got sick of looking for her, and he charged in, killed a bunch of people, rescued her, and he gave the big speech that made everybody leave the school. Violet did nothing except get rescued. And everyone's like, good job, Violet, for taking on the dragon school. Not only is everybody falling over themselves to praise this girl for stuff she has done, they're happy to give her credit for stuff she hasn't done as well. But oh no, thank goodness we just had that training scene where we established that Violet is totally having trouble with her aim, because it turns out the thing that the Collector wants her to do is to hit a target with her lightning. But how will she, because her aim sucks? A lot of the skill of being an author is setting things up ahead of time to have them pay off later. And the thing you want to avoid is setting things up one scene before they pay off. Suddenly remembering, oh yeah, Violet is struggling with her aim, and having a training scene right before she goes and does the thing where she needs to have good aim is not how you set it up. It's better than nothing. Sure, it's better than Violet showing up here and saying, oh no, my aim sucks, with absolutely zero proof of that throughout the book. But for a skilled author, you're going to want to set up that Violet's aim sucks throughout the course of this entire book until this point. It doesn't have to be a huge thing. It doesn't have to be something you hit every single chapter, but if we see Violet in battle using her powers, which I don't think we do, and that's part of the problem, we should see that her aim sucks. In fact, a perfect place would be when she was being punished by the bad guy back at the school when he was making her use her power until she burned out. Have her be trying to hit a target and unable to hit it no matter how hard she tries. Make that like her personal goal while he's burning out her magic and punishing her. She could be like, if I have to use my magic, I'm gonna practice, and she could be trying and trying to hit a target and just not hitting it. That would be a way better setup for this than just a random training session with a random guy right before this scene needs to happen. But oh no! The target the Collector wants her to hit turns out to be a Venom that he has captured for some reason. What is going on? There's a whole big tense fight involving Violet and her siblings, and then her siblings are able to get out of there because Violet is the real hero, and we cannot have anybody outshining her. But she has been trying to hit this guy with daggers and failing, but she's got both of her daggers back, and the Venom is in a position where she could hit him and kill him with one of the special daggers, but instead, she throws her daggers at his feet. Smaller targets, arguably. She throws them at his feet, they stick him to the ground. Oh, and it's been raining this whole time. BTW, it's been raining for this reason. But weather never happens unless it's for a plot reason in this book. But anyway, she sticks him to the ground with the daggers, and then her dragon swoops in, and she leaps up to be caught by her dragon as she calls lightning onto the wet ground and electrocutes the guy. Arguably, a cool scene if it was in a movie. But in this moment, fucking stupid, because if she's got the skill to pin this man to the ground with 2 daggers, she's got the skill to stab him in the heart with one. But that's way less entertaining than this whole ridiculous scene where she's got to leap in the air and electrocute the ground. And also, if she's doing this, if her electricity travels through water, how did she and Xaden manage to have shower sex without electrocuting themselves? These are the answers that we need, people. So when Violet and her dragon fly back in after their awesome move, not to be outdone, Xaden is strangling the Collector because, like, Xaden could never let Violet just completely on her own have a badass moment. He has to also be, like, rescuing her somehow. Of course, Xaden is going all touch her and die. You know, that trope that the girlies love, so I'm certain that the girlies are so wooning. And honestly, good for the girlies. If this stuff is making them happy, if this kind of cotton candy, fluffy goodness is making them happy, good for the girlies. I'm glad that they're glad. I'm happy they're happy. Me, I can feel cavities forming in my teeth from stuff like this, but you know what? That's okay. One thing that I noticed at this point, but it's been happening through the whole book, is that Violet's dragon continues to be just far enough away where he has to be, like, communicating to Violet how quickly he can get there in her head. And, like, the first couple of times you don't notice it, but you start to notice that it's happening every time that she's in danger. Her dragon is just far away enough where he's like, I'm almost there, I've almost reached you, and she just has to, like, hold out long enough for her dragon to get there over and over and over again, to the point where you start to wonder why her dragon ever leaves her side at all. Then I ship Mira and Serena. I remember that Serena was a Griffin rider. I think she was Kat's big sister. Anyway, she and Mira have a couple of arguments that could be flirty fighting, and I ship them. So listen, I have to make my own fun around here. But hey, they've got themselves the Luminary, the MacGuffin item that they needed, and they take it back to base, and we never hear about it again. Good. Glad we did that. This also means that they picked up a bunch of Griffin Rider students somewhere. I legitimately don't remember where, but now there's a bunch of them, and Kat is one of them. And basically they exist for the Dragon Riders to be superior to and to verbally, like, talk down to. They also exist so that Violet and crew can go on several team-building hikes, which do not matter. We'll get to that when we get to the ending. But she has to go on a team-building hike with Xaden's ex and the other Griffin Riders. The Griffins can't handle the altitude on this hike, because why would a flying animal be able to handle altitude? Don't be stupid. Listen, the Griffins have to be weaker than the dragons in every single goddamn way, because we cannot have anybody being cooler than Violet. We can't let anybody even come close to being cooler than Violet. Are you insane? Also, these Griffins are so laughably weak that I do not understand how the bad guys, the Empire, ever convinced anybody in the Dragon Society that the Griffins were the real threat. If I was the Dragon Riders, I would kind of be ashamed at this point for ever thinking that these people were a threat to your society. Violet briefly makes friends with a girl named Marin, which I think also happened in Nightbane, so I'm getting flashbacks again. But oh no, the team building exercise went badly, and one of the Griffin Riders dies, and Violet gets to blame herself for that too. Because Violet's personality trait in this book is blaming herself for other people's problems. Also, Liam's sister likes Violet now. Hooray! They get attacked by Wyvern, but not Venom, just Wyvern on their own. But apparently the Wyverns do have a hive mind, so Violet is like, oh no, if the Wyverns saw us, it will transmit to the hive mind that we're here, and our cover is blown and they will attack us. We have mention being made of something called crossbolts, not crossbow bolts, crossbolts. What is a crossbolt? Is that another name for a crossbow bolt that I just don't know of? Do people just shorten it to crossbolt and I'm just dumb? I've heard them just called bolts. But hey, at least we're getting a Wyvern attack and that's cool, and because Violet is the best that there ever was or ever will be, she beats it. I will say that if you just take these action scenes on their own, separate from any plot beats or the rest of the story, I think as action scenes, they're entertaining. And I think the author has gotten better at action scenes themselves in a vacuum. The connection to the plot and the fact that Violet always wins, set that aside. Just the readability and the enjoyability of the action scenes on their own. By the way, I don't know if you can hear the washing machine with my new mic. Then we get to the girl hate portion of the book, which I loathe and don't know why it's here. Like, we didn't have girl hate in book 1, proving that we don't fucking need it. And yet here it is, Violet and Kat, girl hating on each other, except Violet is the mean girl. Like, we're supposed to hate Kat, but Violet is literally there with her bunch of friends, and whenever Kat, like, says something kind of mean, Violet and her friends all, like, gang up on her and basically call her a big old dumb idiot whore. And we, as the reader, are all supposed to be like, yeah, Violet, you get her, you tell that catty bitch. When Kat is alone... Now I get it, Kat is written to be insufferable, just the same way that Dane was written to be insufferable in book 1, because this author doesn't ever want to have the chance that you will feel the quote-unquote wrong way about her characters. And you all know that I hate that. As soon as I can tell that the author really wants me to feel a certain way about a character, I will feel the opposite way. That's not to say that we can't have bad characters in books, or villains in books, or foils to the main character in books. But most of the time, authors are happy to let you decide whether you hate or like a character. Usually you're going to hate them, but sometimes it's fun to like the villain. But like, this author wants to make absolutely sure that you hate the people that you are supposed to hate, heavy quotation marks. It's giving Jenna Moreci, honestly, it's giving Jenna Moreci. Everybody learned that the baby dragon was a baby dragon off page, and they're all fine with it. We're walking. Remember when it was a giantly huge big deal that nobody knew that the baby dragon was a baby? But now it's time for a whole new part to the magic system that we never really heard of before. It's time for runes. This is this world's version of enchantment. You write a rune on something and that enchants it, and runes can be extremely specific so that the author can really have them do anything she wants them to do at any point going forward now. Of course, Xaden is very good at runes, because he's good at everything. I have so many questions about the runes though, and I don't think I'm gonna get any answers, like how long do they last once placed on an object? And how much control can you have with that rune specifically? Like, how fiddly can you be? Can you be so precise that the rune will only trigger under some very tiny and exacting circumstances? It's unclear, it's unimportant, it's just whatever the author needs it to do. The Dragon Riders mock the Griffin Riders, mostly because the Griffin Riders have a school that isn't stupid. They were like, yeah, you do like this special ritual to get a griffin. You like jump off a cliff and you try to like land on a griffin, essentially. And the Dragon Riders are like, oh, and if you miss, you fall to your death. And they're like, no, you just fall in some water. It's basically like cliff diving. And then if you don't get a griffin, you go get a different fucking job. We don't just kill you. The dragon people are like, oh, silly Griffin Riders don't understand how the world works. But now they're all being forced to work together with the Griffin Riders, and Violet is against it because, she'll get over it. Kat challenges Violet to a like wrestling match or whatever they're doing, and then everybody acts like Violet hasn't been on page defeating large men this entire time. They're like, oh no, how's she gonna beat Kat? I'm like, guys, we have seen Violet easily overcoming much more dangerous people. But they are milking the fuck out of her being Xaden's ex, and I am so over it. Please stop. But Violet is super good at shielding her mind, except for in the times when she's not good at shielding her mind. Because Kat, as we mentioned, has the power to intensify her emotions, and later Xaden has to be like, you gotta shield your mind from that. And I'm like, she's supposed to be already really good at shielding her mind. Because her fifis are hurt by the mean things that bad girl said about her, Xaden takes her to his throne room and puts her on his throne so he can be like, you will be my queen, blah, blah, blah. And then they have throne sex. And again, I'm sure that the girlies are screaming because this is the sort of bullshit that the girlies love. And hey, at least someone will be enjoying themselves with this book. I wrote, Violet flies off the handle at a moment's notice. It feels very artificial to give them this conflict, but I guess they'd be really boring if they were reasonable with each other, and this book would be a lot shorter. Xaden literally out loud tells her that they have swapped goals/personalities this book, and I'm like, to the author, maybe you shouldn't, like, point it out. Then Xaden says, you are a creature of logic, and I laughed, and I laughed, and I laughed. Sometimes I just gotta read you my notes. Violet is like, I keep fucking up when she is in a constant state of saving the day solo, so I'd like to see more of that fucking up, please. A group of griffins is called a drift, and Violet and her unit get placed with Kat's drift of griffins because they still have to unite for some reason, even though the griffins are useless and we see it over and over again. But we have to team up. And of course, it's Kat's unit that she gets teamed up with, and that means that Kat's unit gets to wear the special patches that Violet's unit wears, and everybody's really mad about it because Kat and company, quote unquote, didn't earn it, and it's giving boomer energy. Yeah, I have the note, Kat exists to be a blatant bitch so Violet can have snappy comebacks and everybody can literally clap. This happens. This happens on page. Oh, but we like Dane again. Hooray! Violet finally realizes that her old school might have been using cult tactics on her, and I'm like, you think? And now we come to the part of the book where I admit that I am jealous of Violet. And you might be saying, oh, Julian, is it because she's beautiful? Is it because she is strong? She has powerful magic? She got 2 dragons instead of just 1? She has the hottest boy ever? And I'm like, nope, none of those things. I'm jealous of Violet because the girl cannot be insecure for 10 seconds before somebody pops out of the woodwork to tell her how amazing she is. I'm not kidding. You might be like, Julian, aren't you being a little bit extreme here? No, I'm not, because both her dragon and her boyfriend are in her brain, so she cannot even think about having low self-esteem before one of those two pops into her head to tell her that she's the best thing that ever walked the earth. And when it's not those two, it's her friends, it's her enemies, it's everyone through this entire book. And I'm going, wow, how powerful could I be if I had that kind of reassurance in my life? If I could not think low of myself for 10 seconds before somebody came up to be like, Julian, no, you're amazing and we love you. Like, I could be so powerful. Anxiety whomst? No. Like, I want to try it. I'm going to try that. Just for a little while, just have everybody just blowing smoke up my ass constantly, telling me why they like me, all of the things I'm good at. Those mistakes I made weren't actually mistakes. They were clever plans all along. Like, how do I get that? That's why I'm jealous of Violet. So I noticed that for some reason, we've basically stopped calling the Venin in this book, and we're calling them Dark Wielders instead. And I don't know why we've traded. Then the Venin did a big attack off page so that we can be like, oh no, they're coming for us. And Xaden can say how doomed we all are. But hey, Violet figured out the translation in one of the notebooks that they stole from the heist way back when, from the super uber secret library. And one of the side characters who we're supposed to like refers to women as mares in his stable. And I'm like,
to be a true bachelor, you gotta build what I call a stable.
Alarm bells are going off. All right, but I'm going to stop recording again for now. I will be back to you, I promise, and we will get this great long thing finished. I think I'm getting close. Yay, but my goodness, this book is too long and there's too much going on.
Dragonheart.
All right, we're back for a little bit more recording. The ferrets are loose somewhere. Hopefully they will not get into too much trouble. But let's go. It is time for a snowy mission with the Griffins for more team building exercises. And also because this book needed to feel more like a video game. So they climb a snowy mountain and now they're stuck in a cave. And I think maybe there's something in the cave that they're trying to find, but it's really unclear. All of this is so unclear. Exciting news. You remember Kat, you know, the obnoxious girlfriend? She has a bow, and therefore she's my favorite character. How come the Griffin Riders have invented bow technology, but the Dragon Riders haven't? And we're just gonna stand here and pretend like the Dragon Riders are the advanced ones? Because they, checks notes, kill off most of their army before they even start. Even Kat, who hates Violet's guts, cannot help herself from blowing smoke up Violet's ass and telling Violet how awesome she is. I think that Violet's actual power, like forget lightning, forget like power, whatever she has going on, I think her actual magic power is that everybody likes her and praises her. Like, I fully believe and headcanon that that is what's actually going on. But since we just learned about runes a couple chapters ago, now we're gonna use them on this mission. But hey, oh no, danger in the cave. You remember that bad guy, the baddie of the week who we killed back at the dragon school? Well, his dragon is still alive, and it's in this cave for some reason, and it's attacking them now. And oh no, Violet's main dragon is too big to fit in the cave, but her baby dragon can fit. So the baby dragon can totally go toe-to-toe with this like adult dragon. But if you were worried that more pointless side characters wouldn't die, fear not. Thank goodness, more pointless side characters do indeed perish.
Oh no!
In all this complicated bullshit, Violet breaks that MacGuffin item that's supposed to do something to help her with her powers, but it doesn't matter because she just gets that fixed later, so I don't know why any of this.
What are the rules? What are the rules? What are the rules? What are the rules?
But this is another instance of a scene where Violet's big dragon is far away for some reason, and he has to give her a countdown in her head of how close he is. Kat gets to use her bow in this fight scene because Kat is the best character ever. And then Violet saves Kat because Violet is just such a virtuous person that she would even save her like harshest enemy. And of course, when they get out of this situation and Violet is once again healing up from her latest injury fest, Xaden is mad at her for saving Kat because Violet put herself in danger. And of course everybody knows that Violet's the most important person in the entire world. We really should put some kind of magical bubble around this girl. Then Xaden and Violet have a fight about trust, and I cannot express to you how much I do not care. My note says I have completely checked out of their relationship squabbles at this point. It's just the same thing over and over, slightly different wording. Look everyone! It's Tandy! It's Tandy! She's trying to bite me. Tandy! Go Tandy! But we do find out that Violet's mother, you know, famously the lady with all the good plans, she made a bargain with Xaden last year that he would protect Violet. I don't know why the mom didn't just make that bargain with Dane, who was somebody who was also there and already interested in protecting Violet. But no, Violet's mother went and made it with the bad boy of the school. And then Xaden can be like, no, I was doing it because of the orders at first, but then I fell in love with it. It's just paint by numbers over here. And again, can I point out to Violet that Xaden, at least at first, was protecting you because he was given orders to. And Dane was only trying to protect you because he was your friend and was trying to do what he thought you wanted. Oh, a ferret ran by me with an object. Oh, I don't know where she got them, but she just ran by me with a pair of eclipse glasses. She can keep them. Don't know where they came from. But anyway, Dane was trying to protect her out of love. But fuck him still. But they power up their ward, finally, because they have all of the MacGuffins that they need, I guess. And they power it up, and hooray.
And there was much rejoicing.
And then we find out that Xaden has another secret. He's the secrets boy. He's all, secret, secret, I've got a secret. He's like, Violet, I have a secondary power, because due to stupid dragon bullshit, some people get another power aside from the one that they already get from their dragon and all of the small magic that they can just do. And his power is like so like earth-shattering that he would be killed if anyone knew he had it. And that is the power to read minds. Oh my god, he's Edward Cullen. I swear to you, I swear that Xaden is every boyfriend. He's every boyfriend. Every single fantasy-related romance book that you have, Xaden is that boyfriend from that book. All of them in one person. This is why people like him so much, I guess. He is just every boyfriend. So now he's Edward Cullen, and he can, now we find out that he can't technically read minds, he can just read intentions, which is legally distinct. But of course, that's another reason for Violet to be upset and hurt by him, because, oh no, he didn't share his deep dark secret that could get him killed. And also, how long has he been reading my mind? Because you remember that Dane read her mind once, and she fucking abandoned him as her friend until she randomly decided that he's forgiven at this point. So, like, of course she's gonna be upset about Xaden. Except she's, like, upset for 10 minutes and then completely gets over it because it's Xaden. Conveniently, Xaden can control it, and he says that he totally stopped reading her intentions as soon as he fell in love with her. That's so nice that she just believes that, but of course it's true. That also implies that he was completely fine with reading her intentions before they were in love. So he's 100% just saying, yeah, I read everyone else's intentions all the time, whether they want me to or not, but yours, because I fell in love with you, you get to keep that private. Thanks, Xaden. And thank God some wyvern finally show up so we can get some action in this dragon book. The author has been trying to pepper in action scenes because she at least understands that we can't have a whole book that's just sitting around talking about how amazing Violet is. But the action scenes tend to be pretty disjointed and not have a whole lot to do with the main plot. Like in the beginning of the book, it was all Violet randomly getting assassination attempts or the usual fighting each other in the like wrestling matches that they do. And now in the second half of the book, there's just like stuff, things happening. Like she had that random venom to fight in the collector's sequence, and now there was a wyvern attack and a dragon attack and blah, 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 blah. Just things. But thank God there's a wyvern so we can stop listening to Xaden be angsty about his powers. Conveniently, we find out that wards are one of the other things that kills Venin. Well, technically it's not the wards themselves. The wards kill the wyverns for some reason. When the wyverns fly into a warded zone, they just die and drop out of the sky, and then the Venin on their backs just fall to their death. I don't know why the Venin don't have enough magic to like stop themselves falling or teleport somewhere. Or details. Anyway, the Venin fall and die. So now these creatures who we have been told can only be killed by the special daggers can actually be killed by a number of things. One of them being the daggers, another one being Violet's lightning can kill them, and now falling from a great height. And I'm starting to think these guys aren't as invincible as you keep trying to tell me they are, book. But oh, we get through that fight somehow. I don't even remember the fight, so good job, good guys. But then Violet's mother shows up and she's like, we want to parlay because General Melgren, I don't know why I remember his name, but he's the general who can randomly see the outcome of any battle, and what a battle is not very specific. But apparently he's seen the outcome of some future battle that they will lose unless they have help from Violet and her little army. Like, the Venin are coming and they're gonna lose that battle unless Violet comes to help them. And it's like, I have so many questions. Like, are we just fully admitting that the Venin are the real enemy? And if so, why didn't we do that before? I still don't know what the Empire gained by pretending that the Venin weren't real. I'm sure the book pays some lip service, like, oh, control of the people. Like, if the people feared the Venin, then they wouldn't listen to us. But, like, yes, they would, because your wards kill the Venin. So the people would probably like you even more if they knew there was an actual threat besides dumb griffins who pose no threat to you whatsoever, if you think about it for 10 seconds. But anyway, that general wants to parlay, and people are like, oh no, we don't want to do it. And some people are like, we should. Of course, the general gets to be like, mwahaha, you didn't escape from us. We totally just let you go. But also, like, a lot of people just believe the general, that this is the case. Like, they totally believe that this man, who they think is basically Dragon Hitler, has come to be honest with them about something. Even Violet thinks so, and of course, because Violet thinks that she's right, the general has come to be honest. Why does anybody believe anybody in this book? Yeah, the general has a battle-seeing ability, not a truth-telling ability. Violet's mom has a top-secret journal that she delivers and praises Violet again, because of course, but she doesn't praise her other two children. Fuck them, they're not nearly as special as Violet. This woman knows she had one special kid, the other two were just practice leading up to Violet. I'm just gonna read you my note here. How much the side characters know that Violet is the main character is hilarious. The stupid rule where the evil general cannot see battles where the marked ones are is a plot point so that the main characters know that the actual battle is going to be happening back at their home city with the dragon school instead of the city where the general said it was. Because they know, this is so complicated, needlessly complicated, they know that if the general could see the outcome of the battle, that meant that Violet and her people couldn't have been there because he cannot see the outcomes of battles where more than 3 marked ones are what Xaden is, are. So that means that whatever battle the general is going to, it's a ploy to get the army away from the main city. Violet figures this all out, and the reason that everybody goes, oh my gosh, you're right, is because she's a main character. No one questions it. Everyone is just like, hey guys, the main character said something, and everyone is like, on board, we're going to go save our home city. We're getting lots of hints thrown at us, especially in the second half of the book, that Baby Dragon is going to be really special in some way. And I had my theories at this point, and they were pretty much proven correct. I'll read another of my notes here. Someone tells Violet that she's terrible with a longbow, which would mean something if we had ever seen her use one. I don't think we've ever even seen her hold a longbow. Listen here, Yaros. You cannot retroactively tell us that she's been using bows this entire time when we saw 0 bows in book 1. But Violet and her army fly out to save her old dragon school because she knows, because she's the main character, that the school is in danger. I don't know if you can hear all the ferret noises. Like, they're making so much noise. They're playing really close by with something crinkly, so you probably can't hear their little dukes though, which is ferret laughing. And of course, I have, like most YA books, the young people are smarter/braver than the authority on both sides. If you're over 30, you really don't have anything to contribute, and you're probably corrupt. But at the school, they find a secret tunnel. To their wardstone, the school's wardstone. The school, which is pretty much empty, by the way, because everybody went to go with the general and fight that battle. So just fucking abandoned their entire military college. But Violet has decided that as they go through the secret tunnel, that she totally has trauma being underground thanks to those torture sessions from before. A issue which has not come up before and will not come up again. The author just decided, oh hey, Violet's a little claustrophobic now, I guess. But hey, Homicidal Jack is here for his 3rd and final scene of the book. He's down here with his dragon, he's doing evil stuff. Why the fuck is he in this book? One of the side characters, Riddick, gets injured, and Violet claims that nothing could prepare her for it. Even though she has seen so many injuries, not just her own, like so many people get injured around Violet, but she's acting like this injury is something that she could never handle. I think Riddick does get his leg amputated by the end of the book, but still, Violet has seen some really gnarly injuries, and she's just like, this one is the one. But they have a big fight against Homicidal Jack, and oh no, the wardstone gets broken. And then I have more questions about the logistics of that general who can see the outcome of battles, besides just like what qualifies as a battle, because apparently assassination attempts against him qualify as a battle, even though technically he could be assassinated as long as 3 marked ones work together, like just 3 assassins working together. They could take him right out. He couldn't see that coming. But anyway, if the general knows he's going to lose a battle, what makes him participate in that battle? Why not just sneak the civilians out? Or let them die. He's evil. Let the civilians die if he's not going to win the battle. So, like, just don't show up to any battles you're going to lose. You spend that time fortifying yourself better so you can win the next battle. Like, why would he abandon the dragon school and fly out to a battle that he's going to lose. And you might be going, well, it's because he wanted the Venom to attack the dragon school. But from what I can understand of the book, no. He's just stupid. But this just in, apparently, being a Venom is like being a zombie. You can turn Venom, and that is what Jack has done. He is now Homicidal Jack, the Venom. And for some reason, the school knew this and resurrected him anyway. I guess to study him? Like, the idiocy of these people really knows no bounds. Jack has been wandering around here being this book's equivalent of the guy who's hiding a zombie bite. But I have written, these people deserve everything they get, and I stand by that. Now here's a note that I wholeheartedly agree with because I wrote it. Jack being a Venom means nothing and has no impact. He is a villain who has been a villain and continues to be a villain. Instead, I would resurrect Liam. Make him turn out to be a Venom. That way, this has some real gut-wrenching impact. Like, the main character is obviously very affected by Liam's death, so at some point in the book, we find out that they resurrected him. Oh my god, he's alive! And she could be like, oh, I'm so happy, and maybe he acts the same as he always did, or maybe he acts a little bit off, but she ignores it, and then at the end, we find out that he's actually a Venom, and he's been bad since he was a resurrected, Pet Sematary style, and then this reveal has weight. Instead of just taking a guy who is a villain, was always a villain, and continue to make him a villain, just a slightly different flavor, no impact. It means nothing. We are unaffected. For some reason, they decide to keep Homicidal Jack alive as a prisoner so they can question him later. Violet wasn't interested in questioning any of the people who were trying to assassinate her before, but Jack she'll keep alive. Violet has an idea that her mother ignores, which means that Violet is 100% correct. Anyone over 30 is wrong automatically. Her mother's years of experience as a general in the military means nothing when faced with Violet's specialness. This is more of that lack of effort fantasy that we've been seeing throughout this book. Not only does it come up with the love interest in that sort of wish fulfillment of your love interest knows and understands you without you having to put in any work, but also Violet just has like the mind of a seasoned general and just knows how battles are going to go because she just is smarter than everyone, all right? She doesn't have to try, she doesn't have to work. It's just something that she innately is. Violet thinks that her brother, who is a mender, who, let me remind you, are like people who heal people magically, she thinks that he can heal the Ward Stone, and he's down to try. So he's just gonna go use his healing powers on this giant rock. But of course now the Venom are attacking the school, the Ward Stone is down. Violet is like, we have to protect it while my brother mends it. That's a thing that can happen, and she's correct because she's the main character. But Mom, you gotta keep the enemy away from us while me and my specific squad will guard the Ward Stone while it's being fixed. And even though we know now that bows exist in this universe and the Griffin Riders have them, everybody is still using fucking daggers in these dragon on wyvern flying fights in the sky. So Violet's mom, who I just remembered can use like weather powers, forgot that, and I assume everyone else did too, uses rain dance so that Violet's move Thunder is now 100% accurate. That's a Pokemon joke, and if you're confused, how is it being not a nerd? I just gotta read some of my notes verbatim here. Battle starts and Violet uses Call Lightning a lot. Good thing we never saw her actually getting better at using her power in this long-ass book. But don't worry, Violet's fellow dragon riders are suddenly really good at fighting Venom, even though only about half of them have even fought Venom before one time last year. Now they're all just like Venom fighting masters. Randomly, Violet has a crossbow that was never mentioned before or will be mentioned again. It doesn't have any special bolts though, so it's pretty much useless. We finally get some dragon back fighting at the end of this book. Both of these books do the same thing. In the final battle, all of a sudden, all of the characters are running, leaping onto each other's dragons, having full-on like sword or dagger fights on the backs of moving dragons, and that only happens in the final battle of the book. I don't know why the author is so anti having that happen anywhere else in the book. We never see the characters practice it. We never see them getting better at it. It just happens at the end and everyone just does it and they're good at it. In fact, that's a big problem with this climactic battle. This book was so long and had so many elements, and none of them are really used in this final battle. Like, we do get some stuff when it comes to like powering up the ward stone, but the best final battles involve a culmination of skills that the character has learned, allies that they have made along the way, and like callbacks to important moments throughout the book. Things that Violet did that we should see her do better in the final battle. And that's not the case. Instead, she's pulling out abilities and skills that we never once saw her practice over the course of this entire book. Like, Violet is jumping from dragon to dragon now, something that we have never even seen her attempt in the course of this book. She can just do it now. This book has all of Violet's crew say "no one dies today," which is blatantly trying to be the "no mourners, no funerals" from that other stupidly popular book that I can't remember the title of. What was Six of Crows? It was Six of Crows. Yeah, it's trying to be that so desperately. This book wants you to get like bookish tattoos. It wants you to buy the merch. It wants you to get the sprayed edges. It wants you to be like putting these quotes in your house. That's what this book is for. That's what this book actually exists for. Not to tell a good or compelling story. It just wants you to quote it. Oh, and get dragon tattoos. Another example of things that we did in this book that don't matter in the final battle. Much of this book was spent recruiting the Griffin Riders, and they do nothing in this final battle. I cannot express to you how ridiculous it is that they just basically sit there. Like, tiny mention is made of the Griffins helping ferry injured people back to the medics. Like, one line, one tiny mention that that's what they're doing at some point after the battle has been going for a while. And I'm just like, why did we recruit them? Why did we recruit them if the author has clearly no interest in using them? They weren't even included in the pre-battle planning whatsoever. There was no, and the Griffin Riders will be doing blank. It's like they didn't exist. But oh no, Avenin finds Violet and he monologues at her for a while. Of course, it's about how powerful Violet is and how much he's going to be rewarded for capturing her, because he knows that Violet is the special girl main character and he's got to get her captured ASAP. Guess what Violet's dragon is doing? If you guess that he is just far away enough that she has to be communicating with him in her mind to be like, I'm 10 minutes out, I'm 5 minutes out, you would be correct. Why is he that far away? Stupid contrived reasons, because the author realized that she really likes using this device. And then it turns out that Andy is indeed a special type of dragon. She's this rare, ultra rare, only one of her kind breed of dragon that basically has like chameleon scales, so she can be whatever color she needs to be. And so she was like hiding and she bursts out and she can now breathe fire and she bites off the Venin's head, which also kills it. So why are we using daggers if biting off their heads work? We have dragons. Just go around biting their goddamn heads off. I don't know why this is a problem. But the infantry is also here. At least they get to participate in the battle, unlike the Griffin Riders, except for they're getting their asses kicked, because of course they are, because they are ground troops without any type of armor in a dragon versus wyvern and deadly wizard fight. Why? What are they serving aside from just to get killed? Why? Why any of this? They're still doing more than the Griffins, but why are they here? Oh no, the ward stone is put back together. It turns out that Violet was correct. Her brother, who previously only healed people, can in fact heal a rock. So he healed the rock, but it needs to be powered up. And Violet, through her research, has found that one member of every dragon clan, which means one of every color, because again, the dragons are NFTs, one of every color has to breathe fire on the stone. But oh no, there's a 7th dragon clan that's not represented, and they need that to get this stone going. And oh wow, golly gee willikers, would it be great if we just randomly had this other dragon with this like weird chameleon scales ability that happens to just be here. And oh golly gosh, wouldn't you know it, she's the missing 7th dragon clan, so we can recharge our word stone. Conveniently, Xaden has to go like further away while they do this to do some fighting for contrived reasons. You'll find out why in a minute. But it turns out Violet has a conversation with Andy the baby dragon, and it turns out that Andy hatched, like she intentionally hatched as a super rare last member of her clan because she sensed how special Violet was, and she wouldn't have hatched if Violet hadn't been born into the world. Violet might as well just be a demigod at this point. Like, why are we even pretending that she's a normal human? She's just so friggin' special. I don't know. I think this author needs to pace herself because Violet is already so special. Her power creep is so extreme. I don't know how much further we can get as the books continue. Violet is already not a compelling character anymore. Even people, I was reading reviews, even people who liked book 1 can tell, even if they might not understand why, can tell that Violet is no longer a compelling character. I don't know where we're gonna go from here. How can she get specialer except for ascending to godhood? But apparently, not only do we need dragon flame to start up this ward, but we also need a whole lot of magic from a human. I don't know, it's stupid, it's contrived, but Violet's like, I'm the most powerful magic wielder here, so I'll do it. So she starts to cast lightning on it, and she's burning herself out, and wouldn't it be cool if she had, I don't know, maybe been practicing her powers so she feels more confident that she could do it because she's been practicing? That would be cool, but that's not the case. But we're not worried that anything's actually going to happen to her because we've already established that Violet is basically a god. But then through a extremely convoluted series of events, Violet's mother finishes powering up the ward stone and then dies in a classic scene of I was a bad parent but forgive me because I died for you itis. It means nothing because again, the mom wasn't a character, she was 3 plot points in a trench coat. Even the audiobook narrator trying to put emotion into the scene with her voice was not enough to get me to feel even a shred of like the teeny tiniest bit of any emotion. I was so bored and checked out while the mom was dying. I was like, please let me know when she's fucking dead so we can continue this battle. Yeah, somebody lost a leg. I think it was Riddick. I could be wrong. Somebody lost a leg, but I'm very curious how they're going to handle that in book 3 because like that's a weakness, right? Shouldn't he be killed? How do they normally handle loss of limb in this dragon world where one would think loss of limb was a pretty common occurrence? Do they just kill them? Obviously, Violet won't stand for that and won't let that happen in book 3, but I'm just curious, like, is that the usual procedure? I feel like it would be. Also, how will we feel about Violet not being the only disabled character anymore? I bet we remember Riddick's disability, like, way more often than we remember Violet's in book 3. That's my prediction. But Team Good Guys won the day! Hooray! But oh no! Xaden is a Venin now for stupid, stupid reasons. He did it because he thought he was protecting Violet, even though he should have known better because his girlfriend is essentially a demigod. But he got separated from her for, again, contrived reasons, and then the Venin convinced him somehow, once more, good guys just believing bad guys when they speak. We need to have a little bit more suspiciousness about villains when they talk in these books. The Venin convinced Xaden that if Xaden didn't become a Venin himself, that Violet was going to die. And now he's a Venin. I don't care. I did predict it. In book 1, you'll remember in my read-along, I did predict that Xaden would be a Venin. I didn't think it was going to happen this way. I didn't predict that he would, like, become one. I thought he was going to secretly be one this whole time and reveal to her. Instead of revealing that he's Edward Cullen, I thought he was going to reveal that he has been a Venin this whole time. But no. No, he is one now, though. But Violet is like, that's okay. Like, Violet is like, I know you're a zombie now, but we can make it work. She is all in with this man who is now an evil wizard. Man, it feels so pointless. I feel nothing. And then we have an epilogue that is from Xaden's point of view, and we get a different voice narrator for Xaden, and he did not sound at all like I imagined Xaden would sound. Like, he sounded like the most average sounding teenage guy ever. I assume Xaden would have, like, a deeper, more resonant voice. But no. So he goes to talk to Homicidal Jack, and Homicidal Jack is like, welcome to our fucked up family, which is the author trying to end on a punchy line, but instead just sounds really stupid. And then I am finally free of this book. I'm finally free. I have a couple more like little thoughts that I wondered about as I read, which I will read you here, and then I am going to go do something else, anything else really. So first of all, final thoughts. The prince, he vanished from the story completely after they were done using him to get into that secret library. What happened to him? No idea. Imogen also basically disappeared from the story because the author could not handle the main character having more than one good friend at a time. Dane disappeared as soon as he was on Violet's good side. Mira was barely a character. Same for Brennan, honestly. He got more to do because he has a useful power. Mira could have a useful power too, but the author nerfed her powers lest she be more useful than Violet. I still have no idea why/how people in charge hid the venom from the ordinary folks for so long, and no one seems interested in asking that question. And finally, why did we spend so much time forging bonds with the infantry and the Griffin Riders, but it was never actually used for anything? Like, I don't know, the final battle? So yeah, that's me. Those are all of my notes. So extensive. Like, I have hours of footage of me talking about this book, so I hope that this video does well. Just send it to your friends. Tendy's here. Hi, Tendy. Bye, Tendy. All right, but I'm gonna stop recording now. If I have more to add, and I will just add it as a voiceover, because I'm just so done. The things I do for you guys. I'm glad I didn't try to do a read-along of this book. Like, this was enough. This book was so boring. Thanks for watching. Don't forget you can check out my books, which are a lot shorter, available now on Amazon. Follow me on Patreon, where sometimes we have special little like mini read-alongs to check out, as well as other content not seen here on the regular channel. And now, if I have anything more to say, VoiceOver Julian will take over. Otherwise, bye.
Hello, VoiceOver Julian here. Unfortunately, I really need to get this thing rendered because it is going up the day that I am recording this. So I have to try and get it up, and it's going to take hours. Anyway, I do have a few additional thoughts, but I'm probably just going to record those separately, and they might go up on my Patreon because I don't know if I have enough thoughts for like a whole regular video here. But I got to give my patrons some value for their bucks, you know? So if you want to hop over there for as little as $1 a month, you can see all of the exclusive content over there, including if I make a little follow-up video to Iron Flame. And anyway, this is the long way of saying the very short, I don't have anything more to say today because I need to get this video out. I'll see you shortly. Goodbye.
M-Top!
Why, it's my patrons. Patrons like Ruin Queen of Oblivion, SP Boots, Martha, July, Bird Anonymous, Sunnyshine, Nico, Sarah, Cat, 78 Kilograms of Shade, Veda, Roma, Pansing Pony, Julius the Nice Dragon, Haley, Sam, Kira, Kohikaro, Mooney, Pudmancer, Kirsten, Bear, Jojo Bookish, Robin, Ursula, Caitlin, Jessica, KJ, Lafone, Amanda, Alyssa, Rita, Deborah, Afra, Melissa, Swamp Goblin Waifu, Ashley, Sophia, Merween, Kit, Hidden Glade, Like Julie, Belle, Anne Sophie, Callison, Shelby, Zaire, Jesper, Rennie, Scribbling Cat, Savvy, Jenny, Amanda, Lisa, and Sarah.
I don't know what you're talking about, but it sounds damn saucy, you lucky thing.
My xenoscience studies range from urban to agrarian. I am the very model of a scientist Solarian.